Hi, this is Manrissa Lee. You're listening to the Quantum Leap podcast.
Hello, and welcome back to the Quantum Leap podcast, Quantum Leap Aftershow. I'm Albie. I'm here with Hayden, as always.
And if you want to be on my dance floor, you show me your moves.
And returning, I think for a third time, is it right? John Irons. Is it a third time?
Third time's the charm. So this time I should get it right.
You're almost on your way to that 5-timers jacket. So a couple more times, and I got to order you a jacket, a QLP crew jacket or something. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Now, Albie,
thank you so much for joining us this time. Yes.
Have you got a haiku prepared?
I do not.
Right.
Did we watch the same episode? What am I missing?
Hey, you've got the entire episode to come up with one about Quantum Leap before the end of the show. All right.
All right. It's John like here. 5 syllables, 7 syllables, something.
Yeah.
And then another
575. That okay. Actually, yeah. Not to hijack your show, but yeah, feel free to incorporate a haiku every episode.
All right. We have a great show today. I mean, I'm sure you've seen the thumbnail, but this is crazy. We have 4 guests.
We have 5 guests, then 7 guests, then another 5.
It's a lot. We have Tina DeMarco. She played the abuela, the grandmother of Camilo, that was on trial in this episode. She was a pleasure to talk to. Can't wait till you hear that. A lot of cool stuff. We got Diandra Lyle, who played Vicky Davis, the ADA. We have Nate Walker, who played Tyler Hamlin, the guy who was accused of grand larceny because he was naked and trying to find a place to sleep. And, of course, we have Edward Gelhaus, the guy who played the biker, Stuart Johnson. Mm-hmm. Great guy. Awesome in this episode. I'm going to let that slip right now, my thoughts on that one. But it was great to talk to him. So we have a huge show today. This is getting
everyone's
great.
Favorite.
I can't believe it. Yeah, I mean, I was over the moon.
Or at least definitely in everyone's top 5. Or top 7 or top 5.
They're all good. They're all so good.
They're all really good. I'm like, how are you even choosing? They're all good.
I know you can't. You can't. I would spend time with any of them. So, we're talking about Quantum Leap episode 15 of season 6. I'm going to call it season 6 now because this episode really felt like a season 6 episode. It's called Ben's Song for the Defense, where Ben leaps into a public defender in 1985. So we have a lot to talk about. I'm excited about this episode. I just want to, because I haven't had a chance to talk about it yet. So, John, why don't we start with you? What are your first impressions of Ben's Song for the Defense?
I mean, you nailed it. Like it feels like, old school Quantum Leap. I watched it, maybe a couple of hours ago, so I didn't get a chance to watch it twice. And I was expecting, I'm not sure, I guess because of the family style episode, I was expecting like more twists and turns. But no, it was pretty straightforward. Like it was, this is the story and like, he's got to do what he can to fix it. Like it's all about, so I was like, okay, well I think maybe he really did this thing. And I'm like, no, John, you're overthinking it. Just sit back, just let it wash over you. Just soak in it and enjoy it. Which is, always the best way to enjoy Quantum Leap, I think.
Hayden.
Yeah, it was a really great episode. Not perfect. I'll give you that. It's not perfect, but it was really great. I think that, all the whinging that the so-called fans have been doing about saying, we're sick of the mystery box and focus on the leaps and have it mesh better. I really think the producers must be listening because, again, like you're saying, this felt like old school Quantum Leap. It flowed every bit as well as the previous episode SOS did. And there's very little I can critique about it. Little, but not nothing. All right. And I'm sure we'll get there. But
I'm intrigued.
Having said that, how good is Jen as the hologram?
Wow. Right?
That's great.
Not taking anything away
permanently as the hologram.
Well, I don't know. I don't want to take anything away from Addison because, Caitlin's great as the hologram, and I love the relationship that her and Ray has formed for that. But Jen stepping in, that was great, and I welcome her back doing that again and again. I hope we get to
Yeah.
see everybody as a hologram at some point. It'd be
Yeah.
great to see Magic going in the chamber going, how do you work this thing? It's what? How do I get this hand linked to? What am I doing, Ian? You know,
Yeah.
I think that'd be great.
Yeah.
What time is this? I got a headache.
But yeah, she was amazing in this episode. She really stood out. So
Yeah.
that
And
was
I
great.
really do feel like that no nonsense attitude that she has, where it's just, look, the ends will justify the means no matter what. Let's just find a way to get through this. All right, we got the almanac here. Okay, tell him to bet on this one. That'll give him enough money for bail. I'll just read the damn files already. Do what you got to do. Get out of here already.
Yeah.
I just
love
thought that was so good. And it felt a lot like Al. I
Yes.
really thought that Al was the one that had that sort of no nonsense, let's get this done attitude back in the original show. And she felt a lot like Al, which I really appreciated as well.
Jen definitely had like a no nonsense, just this is how we can fix it, and like logical and matter of fact. And I love the almanac reference, and just like she actually realized like what people I think at home. This episode was very well written. Like people at home would go, of course you can just solve this by doing this and this, and that's where Jen's character stepped in. And she was like, yeah, okay, this is how you do this, and let's do it, and let's get it done. What, you haven't done this before? Like having knowledge of the future. I mean, 1985, how long ago was that? Like 37 years ago? Something like that? That's a lot of power. That is a superpower, right? Just knowing all the future things. So just so good, so good. What did you think of the overall story, like the legal procedural kind of thing? The courtroom drama for Quantum Leap?
I thought, in the first scene, well, not the first scene, but when the murder trial started, I thought, oh, okay, so this episode is going to be a courtroom drama, and I was like, okay, cool, I'm here for that. It's not my favorite kind of show, but I like them well enough. Because again, old school Quantum Leap, like, okay, so this episode is this kind of thing, and this episode is that kind of thing. So that's what I was expecting. But no, like we were barely in the courtroom at all.
Mm-hmm.
It was about this relationship and that relationship, and yeah, I'm gonna also second, third, and fourth what you're saying about the Ned Ali, and just bet on what, you haven't done that before? And I was like, yeah, it never even occurred to me to do that. Like, no, Scott would never.
I suppose they must have changed the rules.
Ben would never. Yeah,
Ben
I don't
right
think they
along
did change
with
the
it.
rules. I think Jen just doesn't care.
Yeah, and Ben went with it. He was like, "That's a great idea. Let's do this."
It's like, yeah, that solves the problem.
Do we want to go quantum deep for a sec?
Sure. Let's go quantum deep.
A theory that's floating around is that that Jen may be the hologram for Martinez, who I'm not going to call our usual name because I don't want to have to give up my dollars.
Up. Come on. Give me money. Oh, you didn't. You didn't call him.
Say it. I didn't.
You didn't say Leaper X?
Say
Oh, I did. Here you go, Hayden.
Yeah. But the theory is that Jen is going to end up being Martinez's hologram. And I think that would make perfect sense because of her no-nonsense attitude. The fact that she is so loyal, I suppose, to magic, and that she'll do what he instructs in any means possible. And the fact that there does seem to be something nefarious going on in the future side of things. And let's just say she fit into that role like a glove. So I think she's essentially becoming very well prepared for that role.
Like a well-fit glove. Very fitting glove.
Yeah, we definitely can't acquit.
Where did you hear this?
Courtroom reference too.
Where did
Chris
this
is the
theory
only one
come
who
from?
thinks he can do them. I do them better than Chris does.
This is the first time I'm hearing of that theory. Tell me more.
Well, that was essentially the theory. That's why I didn't
Okay.
really want to leave it, because it was kind of leaning towards what we were talking about with Jet.
All right, but
So-
that'll be the clickbait headline for Quantum
Could be.
Leap.
Well, there are other
Uh,
theories going on around as well, because we've seen some synopsises of the next couple of episodes coming up.
Mhm.
And I believe in the next one we find out there's a mole at Project Quantum Leap. So could be Jen, but I actually like the other theory that's going around, that it's actually magic. Because magic has to follow the orders of the military. And what the military wants, the military is going to have to get, especially because Quantum Leap is government funded. So, I think that he could be getting secret instructions from higher up. And, he might not be as squeaky clean as he's made out to be so far.
Say it ain't so.
Well, also, Magic is, he's running the project. He's military. So even if he's not doing anything nefarious, he can't necessarily share everything that he knows with the rest of the team. So,
yeah.
You never know.
Or he might not even know. He's just following orders without questioning.
Yeah.
At a certain
And
level.
let's put it this way. How many of the world's atrocities have happened from people who were just following orders? And who are the ones who are most likely to do that? Magic and Jen.
I'm very
and
intrigued to see
Addison
what,
too, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, military people, I guess. I don't see
Yeah.
Jen too much as a military person. I see her as like on her own, and she just happens to be in a military organization right now.
Yes, but also her very strong loyalty to magic, though, makes me kind of mentally put her in that camp. And let's face it, Ian's the one who's going to be leaping back to try and prevent these cataclysms that are going to happen. So I'd say it probably isn't Ian. That doesn't really leave that many people left.
Yeah, we only have the 5. So, man, it's
Yeah.
a pick 'em at this point.
Yeah. So,
And I know this, I guess, wasn't a surprise, but what do you guys think about the idea of just having a rotating seat for the hologram position for whoever's best suited, as opposed to, they kind of, that's part of the reason that like L had, expertise in everything, so that he could be helpful, like no matter what Sam was having to do. But it's like, actually, no, I don't know about this. You know about this. You be the hologram today. Is that?
I like it.
Is that a welcome change?
makes perfect sense to me. I always thought it was a massive design flaw for the project to only ever have one person who's able to contact the Leaper, because what happens if that person gets sick or is killed accidentally, or if for whatever reason they just aren't able to? They might be asleep even. If
Or
Sam
get
or
replaced
Ben are
by
leaping around
Roddy
at any
McDowell.
time of the year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's
That can happen.
Yeah, well, let's say
if they
Ben
can.
or Sam could leap at any time, day or night. It's got to be an extremely difficult job for one person to be on call 24/7 at any time. I think it makes perfect sense to be able to have someone trusted able to be there at any time. So, yeah, I think it makes perfect sense, and put the most qualified person for that particular task in there to get the task done.
What did you think about the glitching in this episode when there were 2 holograms? Because we didn't notice that in Let Them Play when Addison brought Ian to the basketball game. I mean, it might have happened off camera and we just didn't see it. But what did you think about that new limitation?
Well, I thought it might have been because of the fact that they were actually communicating with Ben, whereas in Let Them Play, all they were doing was observing what was actually going on. They weren't trying to keep up a conversation with Ben at the time. I thought that would have been the reason why they would have been having trouble keeping that enough power there and keeping the connection, because it's got to do more, I suppose, to link up the brainwaves.
I thought the same thing. It's like the difference between streaming a movie and running a Zoom call. Like, there's a lot more power and data necessary.
I definitely agree with you, John. This episode, when I first watched it, I'm like, okay, we're going to get a courtroom drama. We're going to get like an episode of Matlock, and it's going to be, aha, that's who did it at the end. And instead, it wasn't. It was just really the background for the story about the people, and I really enjoyed that because it was about the relationship. That was a really nice romantic story. I love that. I loved just depicting what a public defender does and goes through, and the nonstop chaos of that. That was the first time I've really seen that. What did you think of the character of Saul? At first, I thought it was like a red herring, like he was going to end up being the one that was behind the scenes manipulating the evidence or something, but he just turned out to be a good guy, helping Ben. And
Which
maybe
one was
even a
Saul?
leaper. The one giving Ben legal advice throughout the episode.
Oh, yeah. I
Yeah.
The
thought
guy
the
with
same
the
thing.
white beard.
Yeah, he was
that's-
great. The
that's-
actor was great. I don't know his name because I didn't see him in the credits, but he was great.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I thought, I guess I'm just jaded from too much prestige TV. I thought the kindly gentleman was like really a bad guy. I thought that the younger brother was the one who actually killed him, and the older brother was protecting him.
Yes.
I thought that too.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, all of which could have been, I guess, fine if a little predictable, but like, no, this is no. It was it was as simple a story as it seemed to be, which was I outsmarted myself. It was unpredictable because I kept trying to predict it and didn't need it. Like,
Yeah.
I shouldn't have.
Yeah. Well, I said that I didn't have much to criticize, but one thing that I would say that I didn't actually like was the leap in was fine, but why leap in with the guy in his underwear next to him as the defender and making it look like, he's committed some horrible or been accused of some horrible act, but then have that not be the focus of the actual leap. I don't like it when they leap Ben or Sam into a situation to try and get viewers, but then do the bait and switch and then have it essentially account for very little throughout the whole episode. So that's one thing that I wasn't particularly a fan of. They could have had virtually the same opening that they had in So Help Me God, where Ben could be asked immediately, what's your plea for Camilo's crime or alleged crime, and go from there. At least then that's actually what the episode's going to be about. So I generally don't like it.
I object on grounds of no evidence.
Overruled.
And I would say the reason that this happened was because it's a great cold open, and it's very intriguing because you want to find out why the guy was naked and got kicked out. And the actor who played Tyler Hamlin, Nate Walker, he was just great in that few minutes in the opening. And I think it was just like a fun opening, and it shows you how Ben is just always constantly thrown onto a moving train, and he has no idea what direction he's going or what's going on.
Well,
so I think that was part of it.
as well.
Yeah,
there's another issue there as well.
I object.
They would never. I'll have you thrown out of my courtroom. I'll hold you in contempt.
I think John is the judge in this case. So
no,
we'll let him
The
decide.
other issue is no court would allow the defendant to be in his underwear while being while entering.
Was
a
he
plea.
in his underwear? I didn't notice that part.
He was
I
under
noticed
shirt.
I
figured
shirt.
he had pants on.
Yeah, I assumed he had pants on.
Well,
That would be...
He still wouldn't be. He still would not be allowed like that. Even if he had only just been arrested, they would have given him some clothes to wear, while in the courtroom. So
yeah, but you got to show off the guns,
that's
man.
what. So
You got to show off the guns.
not only is it a problem with the fact that they're doing the bait and switch anyway, but they're also doing it in an unrealistic way. So those are a couple of things that I do have to criticize. All right, because unlike
Mr.
Albie, who gives
Prosecutor,
7 thumbs
Mr.
up for
Prosecutor.
everything, but
May I butt in here? I think you would be correct if, in fact, that Tyler Hamlin was not referenced in the rest of the episode, but he did have a through storyline. So I think your complaint is invalid, and I asked John to throw that out.
I will for the defense. and also
no, I have right of reply to that.
1980s New York. I'm pretty sure like if he was shirtless, maybe not, but 1980s New York, even shirtless, it would not surprise me if like someone showed up in court like that. So just undershirt, like the A-frame undershirt.
Also, what did Jen say that on average, public defender has 7 minutes with their client? So there's no time to talk about wardrobe and what to wear. You know, did you do it? Tell me why you didn't do it, and how can we fix this? And here's the plea you should take. You know, there's no time for a wardrobe discussion, I think.
Plus, he was a no-show in court a couple of times too, right? Wasn't that on his record?
I think so. Yeah.
He's not the best. He's not the best defendant.
They've had time to get his record, so they've got time to get him some clothes.
I think the judge already ruled in this case, so I think we should move on to the next point, prosecutor.
I loved the relationship between, like, did not see that coming at all. At all. But yeah, it was, this is a really good episode.
I like the kisses. The kisses were very sweet. I liked it. Very loving. And not like going for the kill kind of Scott Bakula kiss. You know, it was probably COVID. You know, they're all doing the half a bottle of Listerine and just kissing on the lips because of COVID. But still, I found it sweet. I love their relationship.
Did you notice that this episode's essentially the first one that he's kind of been lovey-dovey with someone, even on a minor level, and this is the one that they have to get rid of. They have to get rid of Addison as the hologram for.
I didn't.
That would have been awkward. But you notice she was giving that monitor the stink eye. She was watching everything that Ben was doing. Maybe that was why. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I suppose that another issue that I did have with the episode is a little bit to do with the two of them. Ben's right. It is unethical that they're on the same case. But also the fact that they are keeping things from each other, that actually doesn't happen in court cases. Everything has to be revealed to all parties at all times. It's also I suppose a bit of a good showing actually of the issue with the adversarial system of law, because it's always one side has to win. It's one side against the other, one side has to win. The big advantage, of course, is that, innocent until proven guilty. But other parts of the world have what's called the inquisitorial system. Its downfall is that everyone's guilty until proven innocent, but their main focus is finding what the truth is. So, everyone's a lot more willing to share everything that they've got. The judge gets more heavily involved, also trying to discover the truth and find out what's actually happened. And if ultimately that's what the goal is, to get the truth, then you'd probably see a lot better outcomes and a lot less corruption. Not to say that it doesn't happen, but you would think that that would be likely what's going to happen.
I object on grounds. I don't know what that means, but I'm going to say they have an expert.
No system is perfect.
They have an expert on set for like everything. So I mean, even snake hole expert in the the Runaway.
Do they
episode.
though? Haven't we had this discussion that it felt like they haven't had the experts there?
I'm pretty sure they had a law expert that was versed in 1980s New York state law. I would bet money on it. So I don't know. But hey, you could be right.
How much is in the pot already?
Yeah, because it's hard. Martinez, I'll get it. Martinez. All right, so we have a lot to talk about. This was a great first impression thing. We have so many interviews to get to. I think we'll go to our first interview, and that'll be with Abuela. She only had a few lines, and they were in Spanish. But oh my goodness, let me tell you about this interview. This woman started in television when she was so young, and she was in so many famous historical television touchstones, and her family knew so many famous people. I don't want to spoil it for you, but it's a great interview. So let's go to that now, and we'll be right back. Hello and welcome back to the Quantum Leap Podcast. I'm Albie, and I'm very fortunate to have with us today Tina DeMarco. You might know her from Ben's Song for the Defense, the episode that just aired on NBC. Tell me, Tina, thank you. First of all, thank you for being here, and I want to get to know you first. But I'm so excited to talk about Quantum Leap. Can you just tell me how you got involved in Quantum Leap, and like how did you get the part, and what do you think of it?
Well, lately, actors are in this bubble called your living room. Because when we audition from home. We get no feedback. So we get the sides, we prepare for it, we set up our living room or wherever we're going to audition from, and we send it into this void, and hopefully somebody will see it. And what I did is I did the line. It was only one line in Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand. It was the line. No entiendo, mijo. So that was the only little line I had. So I sent it in. I said, I'm never going to get this. It's only one little line. But sure enough, I got it. And that was the process. You know, it starts with your agent submitting you doing the homework of actually doing the tape at home, taking the time to study it, dress appropriately, hair, makeup, and send it in. And so that's how I got involved with Quantum Leap, and I was very lucky to get it.
That's awesome. Yeah, you were an integral part of the episode because the guest character that's on trial, you know, wrongly accused, having his grandmother there, right? Grandmother.
Yes, Grandma.
It makes him more human, and you understand. I think it makes the audience more sympathetic for his character, even before they know that he was innocent.
Right. I think family is important. And in my own life, I've had family members in jail and coming out with their attorneys, and we are not allowed any interaction at all. So they frown on that. So I could totally relate to the character.
Before we get back to Quantum Leap, I took a look at your IMDb. You've done a bunch of stuff, and I read your bio. So how did you get the acting bug? What first made you want to be an entertainer and entertain people?
It's funny. In the olden days, and I say olden, I was a teenager in the 60s, drama and Glee Club and those artistic things were included in high school. I don't think they are anymore, which is a real shame because of maybe personnel or money. But that's when I got interested. I went into Glee Club. I went into the drama club. We put on musicals every year, starting with The Sound of Music, Say It with Music, all kind of musicals that we did. And that got me started and ignited the fire in me to pursue it after high school. So I went into the program that LACC, Los Angeles City College, offered. From there into UCLA for 2 years in theater arts. And that's what launched my career in 1972.
Oh, wow. That was a time, huh?
Yeah.
What were some of your favorite musical theater shows you did, musicals you did?
Oh, I think above all, it was The Sound of Music. Being a nun and singing and the performance. It was a beautiful theater called, it was the Downtown Theater in downtown Los Angeles, and it was huge. They had comedy one night, and then they had theater another night, and musicals. The Variety Arts Center, it was called. And so that's where my little high school went to perform, and we thought we hit the big time. And it was very exciting. So that was the best for me.
What's it like making the transition from doing like live theater into, film and television with, camera setups and all that stuff?
Live theater, which I still do, because because the audience, you can almost hear them breathe. It's an entity that is live and with you the whole step of the way. You know their reaction immediately. You know immediately what worked and what didn't work for the next time you do the play. What got a laugh, what didn't get a laugh. It's just a different ambiance in music, in TV and film, commercials. You don't get that immediate reaction from people. In fact, you wonder if you did well at all because there's nobody to tell you that you did well. Actors, we're so egotistical. We need somebody to pat us on the back and say, hey, that was great. And you don't always get that in film or on TV.
Well, applause, right? You do it for applause, right?
Right.
and you don't often get that on television, I'm sure. So,
yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about your career before getting Quantum Leap and what led you to Quantum Leap, like different parts you've done?
Sure. I started up, I had a mother who would drive me all over Hollywood between classes in high school and even after high school. So I was like in the Patty Duke show and My Three Sons, The Rifleman, wherever there was children, like in a school classroom, like Leave It to Beaver, I was there like a little extra as a child.
That's mind-blowing.
I grew up. Yes, right.
Yeah.
So I was involved and went to the school that was provided on the set because we had to have a teacher. So I was in school with all those little actors like it, Leave It to Beaver and all of those little people. I can't think of her name now, but Patty Duke and all that. We had to go to school together because of our age. But so that's what got me started. And it was very interesting to me to learn the camera angles and what worked and what didn't, because we had a lot of downtime in which we were just watching cameras being set up.
When you were that young, first of all, do you have memories of that experience, or do you just remember that you did do it? Because it's hard for me to remember back that far.
Yes, I have memory of that. I remember that my very first thing was in The Rifleman as part of a Hispanic, I won't say tribe, but a Hispanic community outside of town, where Lucas and his son come and the son befriends a boy that is a Mexican-American little boy. And so they come into the village, which is mostly Mexican, and there I am as a child. I remember that it was filmed during the Christmas holiday, and it was December. I think it was 1962 or one, around there. And I was very resentful of having to be on set when it was Christmas time. Because all of the other children were already thinking about their toys and what Santa Claus was going to bring them. And here I was working. Because my mom was a workaholic, so I too had to be a workaholic like my mom.
But wow, like I'm sure at the time when you're filming these things as a kid, you don't realize how iconic they're going to be later on in life. But did you have any sense of, wow, this is Patty Duke? She's the girl I watch on television every week.
I didn't get a sense of that until I was listening to the radio, and in those days it was KFWB, Channel 98. I listened to Johnny Crawford sing, and I said, oh my God, I worked with him, and he's got a #1 hit. And that impressed me a lot. That Johnny Crawford had a hit, as did Shelley Fabrez with Johnny Angel from the Donna Reed show. You know, all these people.
I love that show. I love that show.
Yeah, you know, the Shelley had her own song, Johnny Angel, which was a big hit, which rumor has it that it was for Johnny Crawford that she had a crush on.
Oh, wow.
But that's just a rumor.
That's so cool. Yeah, Donna Reed is one of my lifelong crushes. After I saw It's a Wonderful Life, and then I watched the Donna Reed show. I think I've seen every episode. Your dad,
she was beautiful.
Oh my, gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. Your dad was in the entertainment industry too, right? So you grew up around.
Yes, my dad was a musician. He was an orchestra leader. During the 40s, the big bands, of course, were it. And people don't know this, but Tijuana, Mexico, didn't always look like it does now. It had variety shows where actors and singers and performers came from all over the world to perform because it was such an exciting border city. Acts would get launched into Hollywood from Tijuana. So a lot of variety was in Tijuana. So Desi Arnaz went down with his orchestra, and that's when he met my father, when my father's orchestra and his blended together for one of the varieties that they were going to have. So that's how my dad started working with Desi Arnaz and Xavier Cugat, who also went down there at the time. If you know who those bands are, they were orchestras of the time of the big bands.
Yeah, I still listen to that stuff on the satellite radio. They got the 40s channel, so...
Yeah.
And Desi Arnaz,
stuff.
what a huge part of history. And your dad was right there. That's so cool. So with you just growing up in the entertainment industry and being a kid actor, did you ever consider doing something else, or was this always like something that you thought, oh, well, obviously this is what I'm going to go into and do my whole life?
Well, at the time, I was going to Catholic school, and the nuns prepared you to be the perfect homemaker. They did not prepare you to be anything else. They did not emphasize college or going to college or pursuing a career. They focused on the home, and they had cooking classes and sewing classes and art, the drama, the glee club, those types of liberal arts that they encouraged us to go into. So now that has changed. Now women are given more options. But in my time, we were not given a whole lot of options. We, being a bilingual secretary is a big deal in my era. And that's what I was. I became a bilingual secretary because I spoke Spanish as well. So my mom thought that, being executive bilingual secretary, this is what my daughter does. It was a big deal. But now looking back, retrospect, I'm just glad that things have changed for women today, that they have options.
Yeah, I'm old enough to remember. I've taken some home ec classes myself, so I think we're in the transitional period before they ended home ec classes and when they were letting boys in home ec classes. So I learned to cook, I learned to sew. So always being in and around the entertainment industry, was there ever a time that you would get like stage fright? Do you ever still get a little bit nervous when you're on the set for the first morning, like first day of school, jitters or something?
Oh, you never get rid of that. Never. I remember being on a show called The New Adventures of Old Christine with Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Now, she was supposed to go on, and she was behind a panel that's supposed to be a school for her son. And I remember that after she was going to go on, it was my turn to go on set. I remember looking up at her, and she was so nervous. And this is after Seinfeld. This woman has been around a long time, but she had this intense look like, okay, I'm going to go on. She's going over her lines. You could see her eyeballs rolling around, remembering her lines. And after that, I said, geez, if she goes through that, I feel okay going through that. And because then everybody goes through that. Even people like Julia, it was amazing. So your answer to your question is, yeah, even today, after 60 years of doing this.
And her being that well known and famous and experienced on Seinfeld, yeah, I've experienced
amazing.
that. I've experienced that to a lesser extent, like local theater and stuff, where you're like, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this, and as soon as you go through the curtain, it's a whole different story, and you're just doing it because you have to.
Right. You go into a different mode,
Mm-hmm.
almost like you step out of yourself and you're watching yourself perform. It's the craziest thing. You're
Mm-hmm.
watching yourself and you're giving yourself notes as you're doing the acting.
It's a crazy feeling, but so rewarding when you've accomplished it.
Oh, yeah. So rewarding.
Can
and you
you
get to meet such wonderful people.
Yeah,
Like Raymond Lee. He's just a love to work with.
What was the set like? The people on the set. Tell me about your whole experience.
So homey, so family oriented, so basically human. There was no tension on the set at all, no drama. And Raymond is so down to earth, you know, he just makes you feel like, okay, let's play, you know, he's just a wonderful person. I was very impressed with how unaffected he is by his fame right now and everything.
Mm-hmm. It's everybody says he's such a great person. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, to be honest, when I met him, I thought he was the guy from Fresh Off the Boat, which was what's his name?
I don't know, but I know who you're talking about.
These two guys look so much alike.
Very handsome.
That I thought that's who it was. So I said to myself, "Oh, I'm going to work with the guy from Fresh Off the Boat." But no. Once you meet him, Raymond is totally different. He's a tiny little guy. He's just a wonderful person on camera and off camera.
I have to ask, in between shots, was he still wearing the heels or did he take them off?
You know, that's funny you should bring up the heels, because when I got on set, I didn't know too much about Quantum Leap, to be honest. And so he is an attorney. But I got on set and I looked down and he's wearing these heels with his suit. And I said, wait a minute. What kind of show is this anyway that I'm getting myself into? But now I understand, of course, when he travels back in time, he could travel back to being a woman or being whatever. And that's the beauty of the show. You never know. So, yeah, he was wearing the heels and he looked very comfortable in them.
So it sounds like you had a really great experience. For people that have limited speaking roles, but are like in the show, a lot of times I've heard that they could be felt like ignored and like unimportant on other sets. How did you feel on this set? Like, did Ray make you feel welcome?
I was treated like a queen. My meals were brought to my trailer. What do you want, Tina? You know, I really would like scrambled eggs and sausage. That's what I really wanted at 6 a.m. And you know, that's what they brought me.
Wow.
Scrambled eggs, sausage, coffee to my trailer. I mean, come on. I mean, they just went backwards to try to please you in every way. I had a craving for chocolate about 2 p.m. Here comes the chocolate.
Wow.
Because I'm a chocolateholic.
I'm so happy to hear that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you share with me and our listeners and our viewers a little bit about maybe the behind the scenes of filming? Like, how many days were you on the set? I know it took place over the holiday, right?
It was. I was surprised that it was all wrapped up in one day for my character.
Oh, okay.
But then here's the funny part that we don't understand fully what's going on right now and how it affects show business. I got a call that later, after everything was already filmed for my character, that I may have to come back and do my scenes because there was an alert of COVID affecting some of the actors. COVID had affected some actors that I was working with. And so they were going to reshoot some scenes. Now, that, if you stop to think the amount of money that goes into something like that, all of the behind the camera people have to be coming back. All of the actors like myself have to be coming back. And so COVID really has affected show business that way. And I don't think a lot of people realize just how serious it is. And to be tested just before we go on set, and every day, and before, and the day before, and the day of. It's constant checking for COVID.
So it's good to know, I guess, since there were no reshoots, that everybody was okay.
Right. After a couple of days went by and I didn't hear, I heard that it wasn't necessary to reshoot. I don't know what happened, but those are the things that, that happen nowadays, and we have to be ready to go for whatever happens.
So since you did one day on the episode, the filming, it kind of like lets us know how they did the shooting, almost like block shooting the court scenes. And so was that a long day? Because you got courtroom scenes, and you have you had multiple costumes, right? And you were in the corridor,
right? Because I think it was a period of a couple of weeks that we kept going back and forth to the court to see if my grandson was going to be acquitted or if he was going to present evidence and all that. So because of that, and it being I think it was 1985, the time frame, costuming were wonderful about getting the costumes just right. I remember dressing like that with big shoulder pads that were in the 80s. And it was 2 or 3 costume changes because of the days that were different. Yeah, that was exciting.
It's amazing that they got all that done in one day, because that's a lot.
I know.
But I guess
it was just amazing. Right? It was click, click, like a fine oil tune machine. It was just everything organized. The wardrobe was there, your shoes, your pantyhose, everything was there, ready for you to just jump into them. They're very organized. Everybody from wardrobe to makeup to
hair and makeup. How was that going through that for you?
Well, they went by pictures from how abuelitas looked back then, because I am a grandma, and so the universal look for grandmas, even then, even now, is a bun. You can't go wrong with the bun, and so that's what I had. I had a little bun back here, and that's how they handled it. Little bangs to the side with a pin, very plain, non-obtrusive, generic look.
Playing an abuela, you had 2 grandsons. Your character had 2 grandsons in this episode. They were probably adults, but playing younger, I'm guessing, just for shooting purposes. What was it like working with them?
I was very impressed with how professional those young men were. I IMDb'd them. I wanted to know who I worked with. I do that, whoever I work with, even yourself. I IMDb'd him, and they have a large resume. I mean, these were not starters. These were not beginner kids. These were kids that had already done a lot of TV and a lot of film. So they were giving me pointers, which was funny. My other grandson that was with me in the bench outside, he's giving me pointers about the camera. He says, now when the camera goes up, it means we're out of focus. So you can scratch your nose or whatever you have to do. He's giving me pointers. I thought that was so cute.
Where did you film the courtroom scenes? Was that like a standing set, or?
It was a set in the Glendale area, between Glendale and Stadium Way. In that area, there's I think it's Quixote sound stages that are like a train, like one after another. And that's where they shot, and they have a particular scene, a stage that looks like a courtroom in there.
That's very nice. Yeah, it really worked well. Did I think was the director of photography Chris on this one? Did you get any was there different lighting setups you had to wait for, or was it like boom boom boom?
Well, I was very delighted to work with a female director because, being a female, yes. Kristen Wilden, I think was her name, Kristen Wendell, was her name. She was real down to earth, was joking between scenes. She wasn't stressed. She just, made everybody feel comfortable. She would come and chat with us between scenes. How are you guys doing? She said, you okay? Yeah, that was great. That was a great take. And she was like that. When you work with people like that, it just makes your day go really fast and very comfortable. And that's what it was. She set the tone. I think the director in every place you go and work will set the tone for everybody else. I work with George Lucas, and he set the tone for the movie that I was in with him. Because if he's relaxed, then everybody's relaxed.
You might have to elaborate on that. What do you work on with George Lucas?
He did a film called Red Tails, and it was about the black air pilots from the 40s that did their training in Tuskegee, Alabama, and it was the whole squadron was black air pilots. Now they trained them, but they had no intention of sending them. And the reason being is because they were black. And so they went through the training knowing very well that they weren't going to use them. And that's what the movie's about. When they were down last in Europe through their last pilots, their Caucasian pilots, they had to ask for the help from the black squadron. And they went in. This is all in history now. They went in and became heroes from what they did and how they performed in the most awfulest of airplanes. They gave them the worst airplanes, the B-24s or B-52s or wherever they were. They painted their tails red, which right there, it'll tell you if they were going to be surrounded by Germans, they weren't too inclined to help them out. Let's just say it that way. And if you ever see the movie Red Tails, I play an Italian lady because it all takes place in Italy where the base camp was. And I play an Italian lady, and my daughter falls in love with David Oyelowo. David played Martin Luther King in the movie. I think it was Martin. The name of the film was Martin or something like that, where he played Martin Luther King. Oprah was behind that movie 100%. And so David played my daughter's beau in the movie Red Tails.
Very cool. I've never heard of that, and now I'm so interested. I think I know what I'm watching tonight. So
I think you like
find
it.
that streaming somewhere.
A lot of people say that it's corny because of the dialogue, but George Lucas made a comment that he made the dialogue to sound like the comic books that he remembers reading as a boy, which is okay. Now it makes sense.
So as we're leaving, can you tell me a little bit about upcoming projects you might have? People can see you in other things?
Well, I did a film called George and Dorothy about two elderly people in a home. These two elders, they can't get along. They're just bumped. Dorothy is just vivacious and friendly, and George is just an old sourpuss. And it's about their relationship. Even in the home, you have issues. So that's a movie coming up called George and Dorothy. But thank you for asking.
Nice. I like that. Okay. And lastly, may I ask you just like your overall impression of being a part of Quantum Leap and your time on Quantum Leap? The feeling you came away with.
I just had a wonderful time. And I wish that there was a recurring role for Abuela, but I don't think there will be. But yeah, my experience was just wonderful. I thank everybody on set, in front and behind the camera. And it was just a great opportunity for me.
Well, I really enjoyed watching the episode and seeing you in it. So thank you, Tina DeMarco.
Thank you very much.
And we're back. How cool is that lady? She is so cool. Tina, I got to speak with her. The whole part about Donna Reed, I'm like, mind blown. Desi Arnaz, come on. Patty Duke, My Three Sons. So cool. right? And
How
they
old
give
are
this
you,
woman, well, it's I'm younger than I look, and I'm older than I look. And my whole life was like I was an old soul in a young body, and it was so cool to like old things, being so young. But now I'm old, and people just assume the 1980s and the 1950s are the same thing. So
Yeah.
you know, I kind of lost my avatar of what I was. So now I'm just an old guy, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, I really enjoyed talking to her. She was so sweet. So, and that story about George Lucas, pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Yeah, very lucky talking to all these people, Albie.
Man, it's a great day when you wake up and you talk to Abuela and a guy on a motorcycle. It's pretty cool. All right, let's talk about the characters in this episode. Anybody stand out to you?
Yeah, the ADA Vicky, I thought did a really good job, like kind of riding the line of what the role was, where she was supportive. And like you said, they were definitely in like the ethical gray area already. So she was kind of bending the rules, but like, and like I said, like I was suspicious of everybody. I was expecting a twist, but no, she was like a good person. She's like, no, I didn't know that he was doing this, and once I found out, I turned him in. And I lost my job, but he lost a job too, and that's fair. Yeah, I thought she did a great job.
I like that Vicky and her girlfriend kept it ethical within the unethical relationship. They didn't cross those boundaries, and of course, there's no way to prove that. That's why you wouldn't want to fraternize with defense and prosecution. A lot of things happen like that. Like you fall in love with somebody that you're not supposed to. You can't help love.
Mm-hmm.
So one was for the defense and one was for the prosecution. But I respected that they kept it fair, even though it was improper, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the chemistry between her and Ben. It was really nice. Did you notice that Ben seemed to take on a lot of the characteristics of the Leapy? I think they've definitely established that Ben is really like Swiss cheesing with the Leapy.
His body language was cool. He had the hand on the hip when I can't remember what he was saying, but he was making his point. But the hand on the hip, like, I've never seen you do that before, Ben.
Yeah,
that was good.
But not only that too, just how much you could tell that he felt for Vicky. The fact that everything that he did, he would be thinking, how is this going to affect Vicky as well? I think that's seeping through from the Leapy too. The other funny thing, just watching him waddle in those high heels, dragging the suitcase behind him, looked so funny. But yeah, that's exactly how they would have to walk, isn't it, when they're in those high heels?
I got to say, Ray looks great in hose and heels. He's got some legs on him.
The earrings are working for him too, honestly.
Yeah, and and he was wearing those heels between shots too. He was dedicated. He was in character.
Gotta stay on your toes. I obviously he was wearing the earrings. I couldn't tell if he was. I mean, I assumed that was his natural lip color. Maybe it just stood out to me more because he was also wearing the earrings.
Mm-hmm.
But then you get into a whole thing. Okay, if he's wearing makeup, is his makeup her makeup? Because it's like, is it the body? Like,
So confusing, right?
and then I don't even want to go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, but, it's a mind leap. So it's actually the Leapy's body. So that's why the earrings and the nose rings stay in. And I think we're just seeing Ben for us knowing that it's Ben and also getting to see Ray. But I think also the imaging chamber is like changing the Leapy out for Ray for the holograms and for people watching on the monitors. I think that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. Well, they said they can see Martinez, so I suppose they can see Ben as well.
That's true. You know what I noticed about this episode? Besides the romance between Ben and Vicky and that like sweet relationship and that loving, caring interactions, there was also Ben's feelings for Addison were stronger in this episode. And he said, I love you. And she said, I love you back. And then the music was swelling a little bit and like we're getting manipulated to really fall in love with their love, which scares me because I think maybe something soon will break that.
I noticed that too. I thought that was really cute. that as a result of him losing his memory, he gets to fall in love with her again. Like that's that's sweet.
Yeah. And the other thing too is that this is essentially only the second leap where he's had to deal with essentially no Addison. And, they say that absence makes the heart grow fonder. And if he's used to her always being there as his rock, then, of course he's going to be a bit more affectionate when she actually does return.
And when Ben wasn't seeing Addison during a leap again, it was in O.Ye of Little Faith, and they didn't have a chance really to say goodbye in that. So besides that, they've really been together the whole time, at least from Ben's perspective. Addison's always there. So I think you're right, Hayden, where he knew that he wasn't going to be seeing Addison for a while. So that's why we got that extra I love you, kind of like a goodbye, which but I'm glad that him and Jen just gelled like so well.
Yeah.
So well.
I was my one, not even a criticism, because I think that's probably just the choice they've decided to do with the show. And frankly, like, the old show did it too. I'm like, you've got to get better at talking to your hologram. Like, I feel like episode 2 or 3, he was kind of like using techniques to make it okay, it makes sense that he's talking, or he goes to a private place. He's like straight in the middle of the hall, just. And I guess if you're an overworked, defense attorney, I guess talking to yourself isn't that unusual. Yeah. I guess people see it all the time. But try to. I feel like he doesn't put the effort into it that he should to be more subtle.
Right. You're right, but this time it didn't bother me because Ben was just so frazzled from everything, as you said he would be, that it just makes sense. I remember when I worked a lot of times by myself, graveyard when I was younger, and I always talked to myself because there was nobody else to talk to. So, I mean, people do it.
Yeah, people do it, but it's also there's a difference between because I would talk to myself. There's no one else around too, but like this is a bustling office. Like it's a building full of people. And like if I knew that this is my defense attorney, I might be a little concerned that she's just muttering to herself constantly. And not just, there's a difference between muttering to yourself and like talking to someone that no one else can see.
Yeah. I have a question. I'm very surprised that it was never brought up. How on earth did Ben know where to look for the gun? Because, if I was, a cop and the defense attorney just shows up out of the blue with the murder weapon for the person that they're defending, I'd be, wondering, where did you find this and how did you know to look there and who have you been talking to? And I think there could have been some repercussions coming through from that. But the other thing, why wasn't the case just dismissed when the murder weapon was found? Yeah, because I suppose it essentially doesn't disprove that Camilo did it, but at the very least, there's enough doubt to remove the charge, or at the very least, I mean, I know that there was enough reasonable doubt to acquit him.
Even at the point where you discover that the district attorney is hiding evidence, should have been a mistrial.
Right. Yeah. Right. So, I was thinking once you had ballistics and fingerprints confirmed, because they were very specific. When Ben was talking to Stewart, when Stewart was holding the bag with the gun in it, don't touch it, because so that there said fingerprints. So to me, I said ballistics plus fingerprints. So it proved that it was Sato and not Camilo. So I thought so. I just connected the dots in my head, and we didn't really need it spelled out. But yeah, it should have been mistrialed quite a few times, I think.
Yeah, and at the very least dismissed when, it was proved that he didn't do it, instead of having to continue with the trial. Yeah.
My first viewing of the episode, I found it odd that Ben leaped out before the end of the case, and we didn't really get the verdict, but we got it in the wrap-up. But then I thought, okay, Ben had already made the closing argument, so there's really nothing else to do but to hear the judgment. So if the person that Ben leaped into was just going into the courtroom to hear the judgment, I'm sure Ben wasn't really needed as much.
That's a good point. I didn't think about it from the person leaping back's perspective.
Mhm.
That's a really good point, because I was thinking, okay, well, because he leaps out like right before they give the ruling, and I was like, okay, well, like, I mean, I guess it's kind of a cliffhanger, and like, okay, so I guess the question is, it doesn't matter, or we're supposed to assume our happy ending, and then they give the epilogue, back at Team Quantum Leap. It's a really good point that the person walking in, like, the last thing she knew, she had set up this plea deal where he's going to get, X amount of years, but then she gets to walk in and hear, he's like, he's been ruled not guilty, judge not guilty. Wow. Yeah, try to edit that to make me sound intelligent.
Always. That's the only way I sound intelligent, editing.
Yeah, it's very odd in a courtroom drama actually not hearing the verdict. And I agree with you. It kind of took me out of it that he left when he did. But even if they didn't have the epilogue, I think you're supposed to think Ben doesn't leap unless he's successful. That's one of the main differences from this series to the previous one. Ben can only leap if he is successful. So I suppose by putting everything in place, there was only the one outcome, so he was able to leap then. Although I did like how Jen said, if you take this deal that they've just offered, you'll leap. Camilo will be in jail for a little while, but the brother won't die because he'll be out to prevent it, and the family stays together, so you could do it. But I do like the fact that he's like, no, we've already proven that he's innocent. Why would we send an innocent man to jail? I'm not doing that. So, I think that
and the whole part about Jen not forcing Ben to do it, and because she wanted to see him free also. And that combined with the end scene where she was actually brought to tears, finding out that Vicky and the Leapee had joined the Innocence Project to get people that are wrongly imprisoned out of prison. To me, almost like clued me into maybe Jen didn't do what she was in prison for. So maybe she was wrongly imprisoned. Maybe that's why she found it so
or
impactful.
Maybe she was doing something that she didn't know was harmful, or that she didn't know was helping somebody to commit crimes. So maybe she just ended up being caught in the wrong crowd herself.
I was thinking that I needed to rewatch the episodes where they kind of went into her past a little bit, because I was like, clearly that was an emotional moment for her. I was like, okay, am I missing? Because I remember the thing like about her dad. I was like, okay, was her dad? Because maybe he was a criminal, but he didn't do the thing that he got sent away for. It's like, is that
that's a good point also. Is
that why it's hitting? Because her dad spent a lot of time, like, he wasn't there because he was in jail for something that he didn't necessarily do. So yeah, I hope that they do get back to that and expound on it a little bit.
I've been saying it the whole time. More Jen, and the hashtag Team Jen, and they gave it to us in this episode, and I really appreciated it. And man, Nanrissa did not let us down. So
yeah, I also really liked the way that the project was able to find the evidence and sift through it using their AI, use their photo editing skills to be able to find the name in the missing document that had been blacked out. I actually really liked seeing that side of things, but have it so well synergized with what Ben was going through at the time. And again, the editing was spot on. You see Ian say a little something about what's going on, and then immediately it cuts to Jen telling Ben the same thing. So again, we don't get that game of telephone. We get it, almost instantly, which is how we would probably expect. So I really do think that they're hitting their strides now, which is what we want.
That was
and
like
Magic won the bet.
I feel like this episode and last episode, at least for me, when I knew that it was going to be, they'd be splitting the time between the leap and back at the project. Like, the way that they've been doing it these past two episodes is the way that I hoped that they would do it. I've got this problem. Team on the future, work on it. Let me know what I can do, and then they, it's and you do get to see everybody participating. You do get to see everybody pitching in and using their particular set of skills.
Yeah. I loved Magic's line, well, it's a good thing this is a military operation and I'm the one in charge. And Jen's like, oh, fine, open the door.
That was another great line. And another great line was when Jen said, I think I can do everything, but I can't do this.
Yeah, that was really good.
Yeah.
And the other great line was that stupid story about the bunnies.
Okay. Hayden, you're a professor of maths. Explain to me this story of bunnies. I don't understand it whatsoever. I don't know if it's because Jen explained it badly or if it just doesn't make sense or they wrote it to not make sense.
Well, what they're saying is that the farmer is throwing the bunnies in the river because he doesn't want them eating his crops. All right. Now, the little boy's downstream. He's able to find the rabbits and save them when they come downstream. All right. That seems pretty reasonable so far.
Yes.
Now, what Jen is saying is that if the boy isn't there, if he leaves to go and tell the farmer to stop doing it, then he can't save the bunnies that are in the river.
Can he walk upstream along the river and save them as he goes?
The river's not that kind of river. Let's say there's an eddy. So there's a little creek that goes through the boy's backyard, and they happen to wash up in his backyard, so we can reach in and grab them. But along the river, it's a more rushing river, so he can't jump in and save the bunnies that are along this part of the river.
Huh. And
so
Ben is the boy.
He can only save and he can only save what little amount that he can, but it's some good. But does he potentially sacrifice them for the greater good?
So if he sacrifices a few bunnies, he can save the rest of the bunnies without constantly having to save each bunny.
Yes.
But potentially, but potentially not being able to save any of them if the farmer chooses not to stop. That sort of thing. Yeah.
Yes.
So it's all about the trade-off.
I remember Magic.
Imagine you've got a bunny on a train track.
Okay, traveling 70 miles an hour, going east.
Yes, and you're at the switch, and over here you've got a whole warren of bunnies, and you can decide which track to put the train. Do you take out one bunny? So imagine the conductor's reading Watership Down.
No,
sorry, too soon.
Touching the heartstrings there. So Jen was emotional in this episode towards the end, and she was like tough the whole time up until then. The other emotional part that really I was surprised that immediately got me emotional was Stuart, the biker, Stuart Johnson, played by Edward Gelhaus, that when he was talking about his uncle that died of AIDS, it went from like a funny story to a really poignant story. And like you could tell that the character anyway of Stuart was like, being tough, going about his daily thing, doing what he needed to do. But when Ben didn't understand and Stuart opened up to him about why he needed his bike back, the emotion just started to flow out of him, and it flowed into me, and I got all like teary and verklempt in like the space of 90 seconds. And I just thought that was amazing. What do you think of the whole Stuart biker storyline throughout the whole episode?
I liked it. And I liked the fact that ultimately he's the one that ended up helping Ben out towards the end too. I also liked the fact that he referenced the AIDS epidemic at the time. It really did solidify the fact that they were in the 1980s because most of it you probably could have done in any time period. But I do think, and I know that this is a criticism that some people have had as well, since a lot of it is in such recent history, it hasn't really felt that much like a time travel show. But having those few things to ground you in a time period, I think really does help.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. Like I said, like I was being all Inspector Clouseau with this episode. So like when the guy shows up at the beginning, he's like, "Hey, I need my bike back." It's like, "Yeah, no, okay, you're gonna need that bike. That bike is definitely gonna be an important
Chekhov's
factor
bike
at some point." Yeah, it's Chekhov's bike, exactly. I thought the bike would end up being evidence in something. But this is a much better use. This is a much better use of the bike. and yeah, like you said, like like the the riot for AIDS was very 1980s, and it yeah, they did a good job of weaving the time into the story they were telling without, having everybody play with Rubik's cubes or, have asymmetrical shades or big poofy hair. Like no, these were things that were happening in the 80s. So just in case you were wondering, these are real people in this time.
And you spoke to him too, didn't you, Albie?
I did. I had a great time talking to Edward. It was so good. I'll tell you more about it after because I don't want to ruin it. But let's just go to it now. Let's go to Edward Gelhaus, and here it is. We'll be back. Hello, and welcome back to the Quantum Leap Podcast. I'm Albie, and today I'm so excited to have Edward Gelhaus with us. You might remember him as Stuart, the biker from this week's episode. How you doing, Ed? Can I call you Ed?
I'm
Eddie?
fantastic.
Edward? I don't know.
Anything
You're kind of
you
big.
want,
I don't want to upset you.
No, they call me all of the above. Eddie, Edward, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, we're so excited that you are joining us this week. The show host and I all together, we were like commenting about the episode, and we just loved your part. It's not the biggest part in the episode, but it's an important part of the episode, and you in it, you kind of stole all the scenes you were in. Both like dramatically in the one scene about going on the biker ride, and then the final like culmination of the episode. So I want to talk all about that, but first I want to get to know you. So can you tell me a little bit about how you got started in acting and what made you want to be an actor?
Well, for sure. Yeah, I'm actually from a small town of 900 people in Wisconsin. So I was always into acting ever since I was young. I actually went to school for, randomly, even though I don't play these type of characters, musical theater. And I did a whole bunch of touring shows in musical theater. I did the Vegas circuit for a while. I got to train with some amazing people at Cirque du Soleil. And then I came out to LA and decided to switch into the TV and film industry. And you kind of, when you're in a career of being in the arts, you kind of grab and pivot and pivot and pivot and pivot, and you kind of just keep on going. So I'm very, very fortunate to be where I am today.
You did. You mentioned Vegas. You did some cruise ship stuff too, right?
Yeah, I worked for Royal Caribbean for 2 years. Probably one of the funnest gigs of my life. I mean, when you get paid to basically see the world, I did Italy, Greece, Egypt, Croatia, and Turkey for a year. I did the Caribbean for a year. I mean, you're just paid to basically be on vacation. You do 4 shows a week, and besides that, you're a guest. So
wow.
It wasn't the worst time ever in life, and I can see why people stay in that line of business.
Did you ever wake up while you're doing that and have no idea on the globe where you were, like just for a little bit?
100%. It was kind of when you're over in the Mediterranean and it was a 14-day cruise, you kind of lost track of time because you're there for so long, and you're like, oh, we're in Egypt again. And they're like, are you going to go to the pyramids? You're like, no. And then you're like, why am I saying no to going to the pyramids again? It's like, and now you look years later and you're like, why did I go every time?
Yeah. I only went on one cruise, but that was my favorite part, the shows. I love theater, musical theater. And
Royal does a really good job. They've actually even upped their level. They're doing live, like full-blown musicals now. They have it's all equity musicals on their major ships. They've really got top-notch performers. A lot of Broadway performers bounce back and forth. So I think that would be, I'd never been on a cruise ship before I got hired for one. So I went there and I did not know what to expect whatsoever. And yeah, their theaters are amazing. Their productions are amazing. They just do a really nice job.
Being a strong, muscular, tough-looking guy, do you get typecast a lot? I noticed you play a lot of cops, criminals, things like that.
Yeah.
Bikers.
It's kind of interesting. It's like the realm of TV and film acting. It's not who you think you are. It's who everybody else kind of views you as. So I guess people don't view me in a very nice way most of the time. But I was actually happy in this, and as biker Stuart Johnson in this, he's not a bad guy, which is fantastic. I've played a lot of very, very vicious characters on TV and film, and it's nice to kind of now abridge that. And even though I look stereotypical, like I would be very cruel in this one, as people have seen, it's a whole different side of him. So it's kind of a beautiful thing to be able to dive in that. But yes, I have been in those categories. So you kind of keep on. I can't complain because I'm working. I said if work is work, and I'll keep it going. And until everybody knows who I am, I'm not going to worry about being typecast. And then I can just hopefully ask to move out of that ranking.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's possible. I don't know if you saw Knock at the Cabin Door, but Dave Bautista played a part that was totally had nothing to do with his size or muscles.
His acting is phenomenal. And I think that's the big thing. I think nowadays the industry is completely changing, and they're actually seeing the artistic approach. And so nobody wants to have these stereotypes anymore from everything from all the way around within the industry. So I think it's kind of a beautiful thing that they're allowing the art more out there. So I mean, his performances just in general, he's such a talented actor.
Quantum Leap is really good about doing that. They don't stereotype people, and they do what seems like a lot of blind casting, which is awesome, and they respect people's backgrounds and different cultures and stuff. And what was great about your character in this episode is at first you think he's just like one of many clients that Ben has at the time, but then it's a continuing storyline all through the episode, and you get to know your character more, and you need your bike back because they're not giving you your bike back. You sleep there all night. And it just seems like, oh, okay, this guy's a biker guy, but he's a nice biker guy, so that's good. So he's not a bad guy. But then when you get to that scene, it's an exterior, and you're talking to Ben about your character's uncle who died of AIDS and all that stuff. Can you talk me through that? Because it was for a very short scene, it was very emotional and yet entertaining and good all at the same time.
Yeah, I think the beautiful thing about Quantum is, number one, you have a show that has been such a success for so many years, and now they're bringing it back. And with that, the stress of probably having to write for that show has to be exponentially like insane beyond belief. And I think our writer was a guy named Rami Lore. So if I pronounced your name wrong, I apologize. But I thought he did a really nice job as Ray bounced back in time, or Ben bounced back in time. I mean, there's so many significant things happening in history, and to try to showcase that, because we know we bounced back into the 80s, and in the 80s there was a big AIDS pandemic, and that affected so many people. And I thought he did a very nice job at making it significant enough that it showcased it a little bit, but not also making the whole thing about that. It brought a kind of like a beautiful, like authentic feel of actually what people were going through in that moment for a split second. And I hope it turned out exactly how we were intending. And the director, Kristen, did a great job at making that work beautiful.
It did really come through across really good, because in that moment you could see your characters like pain about losing their uncle and like wanting to do something. And that's why it was so important to get the bike back. So
yeah. And I think that's the thing, because the character kept on bouncing back in, and first you're like, who's this annoying guy? That was the kind of a joke. He's like, and I'm here again. And you're like, who is this guy? And Ben and I were laughed about that, because I was like, every corner I was just waiting. But it brought a humanity to it. And I think right now, especially, they do such a good job on the show. I think in just the concept of the show alone, it kind of him jumping back into the bodies of basically any type of person. It showcases the humanity and how we're all the same, and how we all kind of go through exact difficult situations in life. Doesn't matter your ethnicity, doesn't matter your sexuality, doesn't matter anything. He bounces back into every type of person to show that we can all identify with every single type of person. I think that's the beauty of the show going on right now.
Yeah. So you were peppered in the episode a lot. Were you there for the whole 8-day shoot, or how many days did you do on this?
Well, it's kind of funny. We shot before Christmas. So we were, and then after, and back in January. So it was the shoot itself. I'm trying to think how many days it was. Yeah, I was there the whole 8-day shoot, but it was actually over like, I think 3 weeks, because there's a hiatus over the holiday.
Oh, okay.
Which is, yeah. And it's always interesting, because you get nervous with COVID going around and all the regulations. The last thing you want to do is I mean, everybody's, as it goes around again and again, that's like the worst fear. As an actor now, not only first you get the audition, you're like, yay. Then you book the audition, you're like, yay. Then you film it, you're like, yay. They're like, don't catch COVID or you're going to lose it. You're like, oh.
Do they tell you things like, you got 3 weeks to get back, don't go skiing, don't get injured, don't?
Yeah, they've got a really good SAG, and every production has a really good health monitor system, and they're all very thorough, and they're all very they're all very nice as well. I mean, that's the thing. We're all in it kind of together, and it makes all the actors feel better knowing that it's such a safe environment as well. They really go above and beyond, and I know it's probably costing them a ton. But yeah, they do give you the whole, just like in a nice way. It's like, okay, guys, realize if you get sick, we're screwed.
Yeah, that'd be difficult. They'd have to do a lot of reshoots. What was the group like? The set feeling? How did they embrace you on this show?
I tell you what, I've been like very fortunate to be on a lot of shows recently within the last couple of years, and I've actually told my wife this as well. I walked from the first day, and I know, and I've had a lot of amazing experiences on set. And I might say this every time I'm done with one, but when I met Ray for the first time, I understood immediately. If you ever get to meet him in real life, or if you haven't, you probably interviewed him. He's got such a beautiful, genuine quality to him that in 2 seconds, it makes you feel like you've known him your entire life. And him being the lead of that show, it kind of transcends all the way around. So immediately walking onto set, his inviting way, you're like, I actually said, I'm like, oh, man, if I could be on this show permanently, I said, how do I fly back in time and make this happen? But it was such a warm and inviting set. And when that happens, I think it allows us to just have, number one, we all have fun. And I mean, and that's what we should be doing, because we have this opportunity to touch so many people with our stories and get out there in the world and be this entertainment factor. But for us to go there and have fun and enjoy it doing and create a bond, the set was incredible.
That's awesome. I wanted to ask you a little bit, because your character is riding on a motorcycle with Ben riding behind you. What was the technical steps through that? Because I know sometimes actors can't. I don't know if that's considered a stunt, the little bit of motorcycle riding to the stop or whatever. Could you just explain that whole day and how that worked?
Well, it's kind of funny. Yeah. So that would be considered a stunt. And as regulations have gotten more and more because of safety, so when he actually rode in, it was a double on me. And as soon as they popped up, we swapped it over. I like to say, in everything people have seen me, and I've done about 92% of everything. I like to try to do everything myself, but on a few of those things, him taking around the corner, you have a wipeout, you take out the main actor for the rest of how long, and they can't allow that chance. But they had a great team, and their coordinator there is incredible. They did a really, really, really nice job at that as well.
I wasn't sure, because the stunt person was a great match, because I watched that a couple times and I wasn't sure. So that was pretty good.
Yeah.
Do you remember the stunt person's name at all?
Off the top, he was just in for a second, because usually I will say, I usually have the same stunt guy wherever I go. I have the guy that comes with me. But this time it was an older guy. I'd have to ask Jeff what his name was, because I only met him real quickly. My normal stunt guy's name is Patrick Million. So if anybody ever sees him, he's incredible. Do
you have a picture with him on your IMDb? Kind of looks like you almost.
Yeah. He's been with me on about, I think, 5 I always request whenever I'm on there. He's brilliant. And I know he does Scott Eastwood. He does a bunch of people, but he's just one of those guys. Number one, he knows that I like to do everything. So he always laughs. He goes, I just come here and I just kind of sit here the whole day and just tell you what you're doing wrong. But he's such a talented guy. And when you find people you like to work with, I can see why, even within directors and writers and all these people, when you find great people, you just want to keep them around you. But the coordinator there already had somebody picked out with a motorcycle. So by that time, he was like, oh, yeah, I know Patrick. And that's how it kind of goes within the industry.
It made for a funny visual, I think, just seeing Ben in a dress on the motorcycle. So that was funny.
100%.
And then we get to the part in the episode where Ray's character, Ben, and you are kind of like detectives and trying to find evidence and help solve the case. And that part was fun also, because it showed a different side of you. Because I think that one of the funniest lines in the whole thing is when you're holding the bag with the gun in it and you're like, is that a bad thing or something? So tell me all about that day. Was that a set? Were you on location? It looked like a real basement, so I don't know.
It was it was technically a real basement. I think we were on the Universal backlot. So we were in one of those sections. But yeah, I think it was definitely kind of funny because, number one, talking about a gun with my character who looks like he's this big, bad, mean mother. But then he comes across so almost innocent, like is that a bad? Like it just kind of gave it a beautiful comic approach, which and Ray did such a good job with that too. He was running around in heels. So that was very impressive in general.
Yeah, I think the great part about Quantum Leap is the good parts. You could always picture like a spin-off series, so, like him in heels and you riding him around on a motorcycle, just solving crimes every week. You know,
that was our joke when we were there too. There was a comedy sketch that they used to do back in the day with two guys, and we're like, we are those guys.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Being on Quantum Leap is you've been on other like network TV shows like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yes.
When you start off and you're doing the drama program and you're going to school for acting and you think, wow, I want to make it. I think I can do it. I have the drive. I have the determination. But, so many people want to do it, but very few people are lucky enough to actually do it for a career. So like when you're on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., is there that moment that like, I'm working for Marvel. I think I made it. I think I'm doing good. Do you have that feeling?
Well, it's funny because who else did I hear just kind of talk about this? It was Colin Farrell just said, it never feels like you made it. You know what I mean? Because there's always something more that you're working for. And it's kind of that thing is we have to learn to enjoy the journey because the journey is never ending. Because once you hit a point, you're just on another journey. The beautiful thing kind of in the actor's realm is I've been out in LA just a little over a decade. And when you get out here, I had no idea, number one, I was going to go into TV and film. I thought I was going to do musical theater my whole life. And then I sang too many shows and now my voice is all raspy and all this. But I came together with a group of actors and we had like 8 of us that had like an accountability group. We had no agents. We didn't know anything. It's funny that you brought up Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So the guy who plays Ghost Rider on the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., his name is Gabriel Luna. He's also in The Last of Us on HBO right now. He's also, he was the last Terminator. Well, Gabe and his wife, Miranda, were in my little group of people getting together. Now, Gabe came from Austin and he had, Robert Rodriguez had given us a film, but we had all started off before we had anything. And so what the beautiful thing is how you know it's working is you watch the people around you and you get to see so many different paths. And then you realize the path you're on and you're like, I would never imagine I'd be sitting here today. I'm from a town of 900 in Wisconsin. I say half Amish and half cows. There's horse and buggies. My dad is a dentist, but he had a hitching post outside for all the horses. I mean,
oh my goodness.
So I think the biggest thing is if you work hard and no matter what, anybody can do it, but it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work reading scripts every day because it's probably in the same realm of somebody who's really good at baseball wanting to be a Major League Baseball player. There's so many actors. So like I said, it's like you do have that epiphany as you start looking over and you start looking at all the different people you've worked with. I mean, I've gotten chances to be on screen with people like Daniel Craig and I mean, even Gabriel Luna now. And then who else? I did Terminalist with Chris Pratt, one of the nicest guys ever in life.
Wow. Yeah.
And I did The Punisher. I worked with John Bernthal as well. And it's like you work with all these guys. And the one beautiful thing you realize is we're all just people. You know, we're all the same. Everybody's the same. Ray, just everybody. We're all on journeys and we're just fortunate to be doing what we're doing. But it is kind of nice because you watch, I mean, as you get to do different things. I just did I did this show called Narco Saints. And one of the lead actors from Squid Game, and I got to be in the scenes with him.
Oh, wow.
And it's in it. It's a Korean series on Netflix. But again, as you realize, all over the world, entertainment's there. People need this, and the world is I call it a beautiful chaos at all times. And we're fortunate enough to make people feel. Now, my characters are usually ones making the people feel like, but in this one, not so much. I'm happy you said you got to laugh because this is the first time in my career on TV and film that that I'm finally getting to kind of showcase even that side of me, So yeah, it's a beautiful thing. I'm very, very, very fortunate for the people in my life.
Well, parts of this should make your demo reel, because it really did show different dynamics of what you can do, and we just really enjoyed it on our end as viewers.
Oh, I love to hear that, because I like I said, I told you, it's you've gotten to see it. It comes out on Monday for me. I haven't seen the final product. I will say this: the director, Kristen Wendell is her last name. She was phenomenal. I mean, I've had the pleasure of now working with a lot of, actually recently, just a bunch of amazingly strong female directors. But Kristen's direction, she's one of those directors that walks up to you and lets you kind of just do your thing and whispers little sweet nothings into your ear whenever she wants something different. One of the sweet nothings was, and I'm glad it turned out, was the uncle part. She walked up and she goes, "Hey, I wonder what this would look like if it was a little bit different, and it was a little bit maybe just a little bit emotional." And so I'm happy it turned out. But that's her vision, and the writer and all of that coming together. So I mean, when you act, and the funny thing is, when you watch acting on film, I always say I can't critique any actor. Why? Because number one, even in this interview, there's editing, there's music. There's so many aspects that go into it. We don't even know how it's going to come out until we see it. We're like, oh, yay, that looks good. So it's kind of a beautiful.
It's funny because it's only a 2-minute scene, but I got emotional just for that one little part, because I was like, oh my goodness, this person lost his uncle, and it means so much to him to do this for him. And just that little moment. And Quantum Leap has all these different things. It's fun, adventure, science, comedy, holding up the bag with the gun, and the emotion that's like instant. So great job by you.
And you
great
think of
job
that,
by everybody.
Think of the writing on that. To be able to have every single bit and aspect like that, to have people feel, because, and that's the beautiful thing, is not to ever tell people what to feel, but to allow them to feel something. And you can have that, and then 2 seconds later, make them laugh. Because I mean, and that's what the beauty of what we do is. I mean, so I'm happy again, and it's such a good creative. It's all the way down from how it's shot, the music, and the leadership of Ray on the film set. If he didn't make that place so beautiful to work with, none of that happens. So yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, you'll be very proud of the episode. Do you have any special plans to watch it?
You know what? As weird as this sounds, I never watch anything I do with people. For that reason, is you never know how it turns out. I always wait. And watch it myself. But I also kind of have a weird thing. Whenever I'm in something, it's hard for me to watch more of the season. It's kind of a weird. It's ruined the movie magic for me because I was part of it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Like now you know how the sausage is made, kind of. And you can't like see the show in that universe. You only know, okay, well, that was a backlot where I filmed this and that. Yeah, it's understandable.
Yeah.
So people loved you in this episode. I'm sure. I know we did, and I'm sure the viewers will on Monday. What else can they look forward to seeing you in the near future?
Well, I've got a couple things coming out in the very, very near future. I haven't got the exact release date on Fox's Tubi. It's actually a comedy as well, even though I'm the bad guy in it. It's a movie called Classmates, directed by Danielle Fishel, who, if people watched Boy Meets World back in the day, she was Topanga. I think every kid my age's major crush when they were little. And her husband, Jensen Karp, wrote it. He writes for Sacha Baron Cohen and things like that. Really, really kind of fun comedy. It's got John Michael Higgins, if you know him, from Best in Show and all that. It's a kind of like a swap identity thing where two girls swap identities, and and I kidnap them both. So it's but yeah, so that's going to come out on Fox's Tubi, hopefully within the month. Okay. I've got a revolutionary movie called The Battle at Bushy Run. It's a true historical piece that I actually saw the screening of that at Fox. It's actually, whenever you get a historical piece and you add a love story to it, I always get nervous, but it was good. Now they're trying to shop a home for it. That should be coming out. And I just finished a serial killer independent movie called Serial Beauty, and the writing on that was spectacular. Don't know when that'll come out yet, but those are the three things in the near future that'll be coming out.
Awesome. I'm so very happy for you. You've been great to talk to. I had a really great time getting to know you. Even off camera, we had a great time. So I really appreciate you being on, Edward. So thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
And we're back. How cool was Edward? A little
Very cool.
Very cool guy, right? I love his voice. And oh my goodness, like in the episode, he's a big guy, but he's got this leather jacket on. But I'm talking to him and this guy is built. I mean, if you go through his IMDb, there's all these pictures and he's like pure muscle and brain and heart. This guy's great. I love everything about this guy. And behind the scenes, a little bit about this interview, the recording platform we have, which is normally great, just today, halfway through the interview, it kind of just... So we had to wait for about 20 minutes until everything was ready to go again with our platform. So we just got to chill and talk for that 20 minutes during the interview. That's not part of the interview. And found out so many cool things about him. He coaches other actors and his friends. His wife's a ballroom dancer. So he's friends with like Sasha from Dancing with the Stars. And I love Dancing with the Stars. And he knows all those people Dancing with the Stars. So we were talking about Dancing with the Stars. And,
not just C-list, D-list as well.
Well, yeah, it depends, but Scott Bakula's manager is usually on that show too. So it's like full circle, because usually one of his clients is on each season. So we got to talk about ballroom dancing for 20 minutes and just different things, and such a great guy. So awesome. I recommend following his career, but yeah, I love that interview. Very lucky and very fortunate. So thank you, Edward, for that.
So Albie, have you got your haiku written yet?
I feel like
I got to work on it.
Right one.
Yeah. Maybe by the end. Maybe by the end. Maybe I'll start writing things down.
I'll give you mine to wet your whistle. All right. Mine.
Okay, that sounds good.
All right. Computer virus. Deborah Pratt as Ziggy's voice. Becoming Lothos.
Ooh.
Maybe. Something weird, right? Did you guys read the credits of this episode? I'm always reading the credits, checking out IMDb whenever I watch anything, really, just not even just Quantum Leap. In the credits, there was a mother and a daughter listed. Do you remember a mother and a daughter in this episode?
No.
A mother and a daughter.
No, the answer is no. So I was perplexed because I went on IMDb and, they always have a lot of people that were in the episode. And I was like, are they from a future episode? What's going on? And then when I read the credits, they were in this episode, but they were cut from this episode. So there was a other storyline where Ben was interacting with a mother and a daughter. That's all we really know. There was a few scenes, but they were cut. And Tina had mentioned, there was kind of like a COVID scare on this episode while they were filming over the holidays. So she might have had to do reshoots because they might have had to shoot with different people. So I was thinking at first that it might have been because of COVID that they cut these actors. But it turns out the episode just ran long. And even though they did a wonderful job is what I'm told. I didn't see the part that they did, but I was told they did really good, but they had to cut it for time. And that was the only thing that they could cut that didn't ruin the structure of the episode.
Yeah. Well, there were so many moving parts because Ben had so many cases that he was trying to juggle at the same time. It's likely that this just might have been another case on his plate that ultimately didn't lead to anything that affected the main story. Because, you couldn't really cut out the guy in his underwear because that's what opened the episode. You couldn't cut out the biker because we needed the bike to get him to where the gun was. You obviously couldn't cut out the murder, so there wasn't really anything else, I suppose, that could be cut unless there's a case that he just happens to be working on that doesn't lead anywhere with the main story.
I really hope someday, somewhere, I'm able to watch the director's cuts, the first cuts of the episode, so I get to see all those things. But it's understandable. You got to fit it in. It's a network show. You got to fit it into that specific time. So unfortunate.
Although I have heard a lot of people say, why are they even bothering putting it on network television when most of the viewing is through streaming on Peacock?
I object.
And if it's streamed, then you can go as long as you want. So, yeah, I'm not saying that it should or shouldn't. I'm just saying that this is something that a lot of people have been asking.
I object on the grounds that as long as NBC's paying them to make Quantum Leap, let them do whatever they want with it. As long as we get to see it.
Well,
if they want to put it on
so much
network television, let them, right?
Just because we like having Quantum Leap back doesn't mean that we shouldn't want it to be the best it can be. So if we can improve it, then I think by all means improve it.
Judge John, may I approach the bench?
Sure.
Okay, so
just bring the ones.
So here's my thought. Two reasons. I watch, I think, 2 network shows live. Dance with the Stars, because it's live. Now it's on, even though it's streaming on Disney, it's still live. So I watch that live. And I watch Quantum Leap live. And I think if the show's worth it, it's going to be great live. The other great show that I'm watching right now, and I think, John, you watch this as well, is Star Trek Picard. And that's streaming only. Only problem with that is it drops at 3 a.m. And I'm addicted to Star Trek. I'm Trekaholic. So I'm not going to watch it the next day. I'm waiting up till 3 a.m. to watch it. And it's so much harder to enjoy it and get hyper and have a great time at 3 a.m. But I do it. So I think the experience at 10 p.m. is much better than the experience at 3 a.m., at least for me.
Well, why does it have to drop at 3 a.m.? That's not an
midnight,
issue with the fact that it's streaming. It's an issue with the company that's streaming it, not so much the streaming itself.
You're correct. They could drop it at 8 p.m. Eastern. I would love that. Yeah. Why do they make me wait till 3 a.m.? It's ridiculous. Probably contractual obligations. Judge, your ruling.
I am going to have to remove myself because I am biased in this particular on this particular issue. I am inclined. I also typically watch it streaming. Well, Picard. Obviously, I watch streaming. But given the fact that Quantum Leap airs relatively late for a middle-aged man, it comes on at 10, which is, on a weeknight in my bedtime, give or take. I try to stay up to watch it because I want to see it live. And I actually like to watch it and then immediately listen to the QOP. Like I'm not even. It sounds like I'm synergistic, like lying or but I really do. I watch the show and then I like to listen to the podcast about it. But it's hard to stay up. So I like to watch it live if I can, but if not, it's nice to know that there's a safety net of streaming. So I appreciate having both options. So. Yeah.
Okay.
I like that. I like that it's on NBC.
I respect your decision, Judge. I just like, as Picard with an example, I don't like, I know I've seen every episode of Star Trek, so I don't like that 6 to 8 hours that it's been out that I haven't seen it. So 2:58 a.m.
Well, the longer it's out, the longer it's out, the longer you risk getting spoiled on something from the internet. That's my big thing. Like I hate spoilers, and if it takes me, like, sometimes I can't get to Picard until like the next day, or Quantum Leap I'm watching like the next morning, but just because of my schedule, I might not be able to watch Picard until Thursday night or even Friday sometimes. So yeah, I gotta avoid the social media.
Serenity and myself are always watching Quantum Leap at 10 p.m. But now she has a bedtime. She wasn't waking up early enough to do her online school classes before the deadline. So got to do what you got to do. So, but luckily, we're in the unique position to watch the episode days ahead of time. So,
Yeah, it's nice.
but we have it live on the television, but it's her bedtime, so it's getting the numbers, and then we watch it next day streaming, but then we watch it before with the screeners, luckily. So it works out for us. We have so many interviews. We're going to go to the interviews right now, and we'll be back after those.
Hashtag Jen for hologram.
Hello, Leapers. This is Chris, and join me today in welcoming our very special guest, Mr. Nate Walker, who appeared in the episode Ben Song for the Defense. Nate, welcome to the Quantum Leap podcast.
Hey, Chris. How you doing, man? Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Oh, we're so happy to be speaking to you. It's funny, we've been giving everybody in this episode, because it had so many guest stars, that we have Mean Judge and Avuncular Attorney, and we're calling you Naked Tyler. So
that makes sense. That makes sense.
So yeah, for those of you listening and maybe not watching, Nate was the defendant that Ben was helping write in the leap-in, who was found naked outside of his house in a stolen car, we think, maybe.
Allegedly.
Yeah. Allegedly. So Nate, welcome to the podcast. Usually we'd like to get things going just by asking the guest stars that we talk to about their background. What led you into the business, and how did you land the role on Quantum?
Man, I actually started acting because I got laid off of a job. So I guess that's kind of an interesting story. I used to live in Virginia, in Hampton, Virginia, and they used to have a bunch of big call centers. So like the biggest Sprint call center, which is now T-Mobile, they had a Verizon call center, they had a T-Mobile call center. So I was working in the Sprint call center, and it's closed now. So one day they were like doing layoffs, and I was a part of one of those cuts. So, it's like 9:30 in the morning. I've got nothing to do. So I'm like going to go to the mall, get myself some bad Chinese food and a t-shirt or something to make myself feel better. And this casting director was in between offices because they were being renovated. And so he was doing the auditions in the guest home of his luxury apartments that I was passing. And I saw the casting sign. And so I just crashed the casting call because it was, I had nothing going on. And then from there, he said he liked me. I got a call back. And that's how I stumbled my way into being an actor.
Is it the first time you had ever tried acting?
That was my first anything. Like I go in the room, he's like, yeah, okay. He's like, do you have a headshot? And I was like, I got it, I'm here, and so, yeah, it was crazy. And so I go do that callback. I actually ended up booking that. It was an indie film. And then from there, it was just a lot of catching up. Like, okay, let me, learn what's happening here. Start trying to find acting classes, get your headshots, trying to build your resume, and learning about the business. But yeah, that was my introduction. So it was really cool. It's not like LA to where you get a call back and it's like right down the street, or everything's virtual now. Because I was in Virginia, the callback was actually like a 4-hour drive away for me to go to. So it was kind of a lot of going on faith. I'm glad I did. I would at that time I definitely would not have guessed that I'd be moving to LA to pursue acting.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say that's quite a leap of faith. So, I mean, how long ago was that?
Ooh, I think that was maybe 8 years now, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Been at it for a fair amount of time. So.
Yeah. I've been in LA for about 4 now. So, yeah.
That's great. So, I mean, I was looking at some of your background information, and it seems like you've tried to, as breaking into the industry, become sort of a jack of all trades and do just about everything you could. So take me from that day in Virginia, which is not exactly like an acting capital, as you said, that 4-hour drive. I mean, yeah, and how did you progress into the business and break in? And was it on the East Coast and then the West Coast? How did it evolve?
Yeah. It was kind of one of those things, like you said, with the background, it was kind of just me. Like I said, I ended up being cast in that initial independent film, but then they lost their funding, so it just went away. And so I ended up going back to the casting director, and I was like, hey, just this audition process has me really intrigued. Is there anything else that you have going on? And so that led to me doing a lot of terrible, terrible projects. Like I've been in I've been like in backyard projects on handy cams, like just anything that I could get my hands into to where I get to like be in front of a camera. I just started jumping into that. So it was a slow process. It was a year and a half before I found acting classes that, were worth their salt in Virginia, so where you can learn the business. So the route that I took is I decided to stay in Virginia until I was SAG eligible, until I got like a credit to where I could become SAG. And then once I got that first feature film to where I could become SAG, then the year after that, I made the move out here. And then, once, when you first get to LA, you're just in the grind with everybody else. Like we're all out here trying to be in movies and on television shows. So you find some representation, you figure out what you're good at, and you audition for those shows. And,
Yeah. Well, I mean, one thing that I had noticed that came across right away in the scene, your first scene, is the fact that you have good comedic chops. And
thank you.
I honestly thought that maybe you had done some stand-up stuff like that because your timing was impeccable.
I appreciate it. But yes, I am a stand-up as well. So that's one of the things that I started doing once I got out here. So yeah, man, it's always a pleasure to hear that, especially because I haven't gotten a chance to do a ton of it yet. So that's one of the things that I'm trying to push into more now, because I'm like, hey man, I'm funny, guys. Like, I don't know if y'all know, like I could crack a joke or two. So, throw me in those funny scenes. And it's been good. So over the last year, there's been a couple more scenes that have been more comedic, and hopefully I get to lean into that going forward.
Well, it's great. So, I mean, so you get the call, I guess you went on an audition.
Correct.
And they liked you. So, I mean, so tell me about the process. You went for the audition, and then how did it go from there?
So you go in, you get that audition. And I can't remember if I had a callback for that one. Sometimes with the guest roles, like they'll just do one audition and they'll select from there. So I think that one was like just one audition. And I actually found out the news while I was working on another show. So it was good, man. It's always like, you're exciting. You like you get that new work, or you got something that's coming up. So it's a good feeling. And then what's actually funny is they had a pop-up, like, so the marketing for Quantum Leap was like great. So out here in LA, they're on the side of buses, there were billboards, and I wasn't very familiar with the old show. So, the way that I found out about the show was like all of the marketing. And then I ended up, figuring out that I got a chance to audition for it, and then, I booked it. So it was pretty cool.
That's great. Yeah, that was going to be my next question. I mean, so as someone that's coming to the new Quantum Leap, how familiar were you with the old one, if at all?
Not at all. Yeah, not at all. Like
not even having heard of it, or
well, wow. I think I've heard of it, but I've never seen an episode.
Gotcha.
And honestly, I haven't started watching this one yet either. I was waiting for my episode, and then I'll probably just watch all the episodes up to my episode, since I'm in the 15th one. But yeah, I hadn't been exposed to the first show. So, before I went on the new version, I looked it up and, saw what it was all about. It's a super cool idea. And, I'm glad they brought it back. I'm glad I got to be a part of it.
So, I mean, is that a surreal experience, not knowing the premise of the show? Say, like, you have a leaper that can leap into anybody, men and women included. Coming onto set the first day, you meet Raymond Lee, and he's in a smart pantsuit, or no, he's wearing a skirt.
Yeah. Got his heels on too, man. It was fun, man. It was great. Like, obviously, we get the script before we get to set, so I was aware somebody was going to be cross dressing when I got there, but it was fun, man. Raymond's great. He really was great. He was a joy to work with. We had a great time working together. Hopefully that showed up in the scene. I don't know. Was it funny? Did it feel good?
You were funny. Yeah.
Good. Yeah. But no, it was a great experience, man. We were having a good time. So yeah, we were cracking jokes about his outfit. We were cracking jokes about my outfit. You know what I mean? Like, so we were having fun, man. It was a ball.
I know that you had most of your direct scenes with Raymond, but being on the set, were you able to interact with anybody else in the main cast?
No, I didn't get a chance to work with any of the leads because my character, like you said, most of the scenes were with him because he had leaped into my lawyer. So yeah, no, not really. So that sucks, but Raymond was a great guy, man. Gave some great advice. Yeah, it was awesome.
That's terrific. Now, one thing that we noticed about this episode, it was a lot more frenetic than episodes that have led up to it. And usually there's much more of a central storyline. And this one did have a central storyline of the kid being wrongly accused of murder, but there was so many different asides, so much different, Raymond is going here, and then he's distracted to go there. And it's just like a frenetic energy in the show. Can you describe the energy on the set? Did it sort of match the pacing that they were trying to go for the episode?
While we're filming, you don't really feel that, right? Because the logistics, when the camera isn't rolling, is pretty much, having everybody where they're supposed to be. A lot of effort goes into that. So once we get to set, and then you're in the world and you're just kind of immersed in your scene. So you don't get the you don't get the buzz that I think the viewer gets when they feel like they're like leaping around or jump cutting to different scenes. For me, I spent the whole day like essentially, in the same building because that's where my sets were, like it's like, okay, first we're right in the office, and then we're in the hallway, then we're in the elevator. So it was pretty calm for me.
In order to get the energy that they needed for your character, which was, again, most of the comic relief, I mean, did you have discussions with the director and with the producers on exactly how they wanted you to approach the character? And what was that process like?
A lot of the time I feel like they kind of let you show up and see what you're bringing to the table, because, they've cast you already for your choices. So you try to keep it pretty close to like what you were doing in your audition, because clearly that's what they like to get you there. And so from there, when, at least for me, what I love is when you're kind of allowed wiggle room to improv, find what's in the scene, stuff like that. Now, there wasn't much improv as far as like the lines for this one, but she did let us play in the scene with the physicality, and how the situation was making my character feel. And she definitely pushed into that.
When you say she, I assume you mean the director.
Kristen, yes. Kristen Wendell, the director. It's amazing. Kristen, cast me again for anything you have going on. I will be there. No, she was amazing to work with. And that means the world also, like as an actor, being on a set to where the director trusts you and kind of gives you freedom to do your thing and find some dope things in there. It was amazing.
Well, that's great. I mean, is that typical for the TV work that you've done? How does the Quantum Leap set differentiate itself, or does it?
Ooh, yeah. I think it's very like, well, some shows are very strict, right? As far as being like word perfect or the lines, and I get that because they pay those writers a lot of money to write the shows. So they're like, no, say what's on the script, because it's we paid somebody a lot of money to write this. And that's it. But some people do allow you a little bit of, wiggle room to improv some lines in there, or maybe to add something at the end. Maybe you get a button on top of like your lines. And that's always fun. Like, now I have friends who don't really love improv, but the comedic background for me, like, that's always fun. I think there's a lot of things that you can find, that just naturally come out that you wouldn't even know would be there until you're in the moment with another actor.
Gotcha. So, I mean, just that playing off of one another, I guess that involves a lot of trust. For
sure. And same thing, like as far as like having a director who trusts you to do that, being in a scene with an actor that you have a good, rapport with, or that you either, you guys just pick up a vibe really quick, like that give and take, it requires both. If not, you clash. So it's important to have somebody who is either good at improv or you guys are just really in tune with each other.
Yeah, we've heard a lot of good things from the set of Quantum Leap, in terms of just how welcome they make everybody feel.
No, it's nice, man. It was kind of a gross day. Like, it was raining a lot that day when I was filming. As soon as you get there, bring you the big like Parker raincoat. People escorting you around with the umbrellas. Super friendly. Nobody seems like like they're being forced to be there. Sometimes those days on set can get long, especially for crew. You're talking about 14, 18 hour days, 20 hours, so like however long they have to be there to get it done. So when you have people who are in those positions and they're speaking to you like it's the middle of the day and they're having like the best day ever and like the sun's shining and birds are chirping, like it makes you feel more welcome, and it makes your job a lot easier to do, for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. So, I mean, if we can cycle out from Quantum, and we were talking about maybe other experiences you've had, are there other projects that you're currently working on?
There is a show called Lace that I'm on. It has been filmed, so they shoot that whole season, and then that comes out later. I don't think that one comes out until September. I'm also in a movie called The Re-Education of Molly Singer, and that one is starring Jamie Presley and Ty Simpkins. That's due to come out, released later this year too. I have no idea when either of those will be out. Like they don't, like they tell I come, I do my thing, and then I hear about it in the news or on TV.
Do you feel like it's a different experience if you're working on, say, a feature film as opposed to a TV show like Quantum Leap?
For
Do you have
sure.
to approach those kinds of jobs differently?
Yeah. Like when you get to work on like the big shows, something like Quantum Leap, the big network shows, because they have an order and it's very regimented and they have like deadlines and there's a schedule. So you know when things are coming. Like I knew exactly when my episode was going to come. All I had to do was look at IMDb, or you can just Google, when episode 15 is going to come out. Like if you do a feature film, there's absolutely, there's no telling. There's no telling. That thing gets stuck in post, or something happens with the distributors, or if it is something that's going to have like a theater release, and maybe they don't want to go up against, something big that's coming out, like, Creed and Ant-Man are out right now. It's a little boutique comedy, so we're going to wait a month, like all of that type of stuff. So you have no idea. And the producers aren't communicating that with everybody. Like they may communicate it with like, your top two actors who may have some production points on the feature, but for the rest of us, we're just let us know if there's a red carpet. We'll come suited and booted.
So you'd mentioned that you had started on some stand-up work. Are you doing any live stand-up shows, anything like that?
Yes, I just got back into it, so I'm not currently booked. In the past, I did a lot over at Flappers and at the Ha Ha Club. So I don't have any dates for anybody right this second, but be on the lookout for me. And you can also follow me on Instagram. That's Mr.MR_Nate Walker. And you'll definitely be able to get all of my information, and obviously anything that's releasing, I'll be, putting that information there.
Well, that's great. Yeah. And I think that it's great that, you're out in different areas doing sort of that cross-pollination, because I feel like all of the sitcoms since the beginning of time have come from, the comedy stylings of the lead character, right from Jackie Gleason up to freaking Ray Romano or Kevin James. So
for sure,
I think, if you're going to work on your comedy chops, that might be a good formula to do it.
Yes. It's definitely one of the reasons why I did it, to work on the chops. I think there's a presence that is required in that, and it plays into so many different parts of your life. And I think it also can directly help your acting as well.
So if we can get back to Quantum Leap, it looked like you guys were in a busy court setting. Was that a location shoot, or were those all sets? How did that work?
Those were sets. Yeah, we weren't in a real courthouse. So yep, that was a set. So pretty much like like for somebody who's never been to like LA or been inside of a studio, just imagine like a big space, almost a warehouse or something, right? And then they just go in there and they work magic, man. They build anything, like you're outside and it looks like this warehouse building, and then you walk in and you go around the corner and you're in a courtroom, and then there's offices, and they have like an elevator set that's built up, and it may not be functional, but it looks like you're in a courtroom or in a public building downtown. So it's amazing, man. It's amazing what they do. All the guys who work in production design and set design, they're very talented people, and that part of it is, again, that makes your job easy as an actor. Like when you go in there and then you forget that you're not in a courtroom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an immersive experience.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep. Cool. So they put you in there, they throw some handcuffs on you and take your clothes off, and now it's a real thing. Like the stakes are up. The stakes are up. Like
pretty good. So, I mean, did you get any good swag while you were on set? I think you.
No, dude, I got that. All right. Yeah. Quantum Leap, you got to bring my character back, man. I'm out here wearing the hat for you on the podcast.
Well, yeah. I mean, so yeah, let's see how that can happen. I mean, Ray, Ben kind of rescued your character anyway. He gave him the right advice.
Yeah. Yeah. No, my character, I don't know that my character will be back, but it would be amazing. It would be fun.
Yeah. Now, I mean, since you weren't familiar with the show before, when you had read the script, were you surprised at sort of the nuance, or did you know much about Quantum Leap going in before you? I know that you said that you weren't a fan of the original, right. But had you heard anything about the reboot series besides the script that you read?
No. Well, you just go do some research. At least I try to, right? Like anytime you get an audition, like I go see, like, what's the show about, right? Like, and you need to know that stuff before you do the audition, because that becomes a part of your process, right? Like, what's the tone? Is there room for comedy in this, or is this like very, is this very straight? Like, is this CSI, or like if you're gonna audition for Shameless or go out for something like The Office, the comedy worlds are very different, and it's the same thing from drama. So, like, I definitely went and looked it up. I was like, okay, what's going on here? And yeah, I had to, because it wouldn't have made sense. I'm like, what is happening? You know what I mean? Like it wouldn't make sense to you, I don't think, if you didn't understand the world that you were about to, be a part of.
Yeah. I mean, thank you for bringing up Shameless. That's always been one of my favorite programs. Can you tell me a little bit about the time that you spent filming that? Is that shot in LA? Like, where is Shameless? Because
I think I think most of the seasons were actually shot in Chicago.
Okay.
But remember, the tail end of it, they got hit with COVID. So when I shot was actually when it was like very, very strict. Everywhere you go, we're still wearing masks. You know what I mean? 6 feet. So that is why they ended up shooting out here, because the location stuff maybe wasn't as safe or not as controlled as them just putting it inside of a studio environment out here in LA for the final season. But it was amazing, man. One of the coolest things, because I was a huge fan of the show. William H. Macy is an animal to me as far as when it comes to acting. Like he's very good, very talented. I've watched a lot of his scenes and just studied. But it was crazy because I did a studio tour when I first came to LA, and I thought I was going to be late because they had already announced that Shameless was going to end. So, obviously one of your favorite shows, you're like, man, I really hope I get a chance to be on this. So I took pictures in front of the Patsy Pies, like on the lot over there, while I was just like on a studio tour. And then like 2 years later, I ended up getting cast, and I was literally in the season finale episode. And my scene was with William H. Macy, and I got to meet him, and it was really dope. It was great. Now we blew him up, we killed him, but it was awesome.
Yeah, and how does that differ? I mean, that's a show we had discussed. Like you didn't really know about Quantum coming in. It's a great experience to be asked to be on the show, but I have to think it's a whole nother level when it's a show that's one of your favorites. Then you get to be on it.
Yeah. I think it's it just touches you a little different. It does for sure. It was one of those things where it's like, oh man, I'm looking at Frank right now.
You feeling the extra pressure?
Right. Does he drink like that in real life? I don't know. But I think it can add pressure, all depending on the scenario. I've been fortunate that every time I've been able to act with somebody who, I had seen a lot of or admired, they were great to me. And it was no different with William. He was fantastic. And, hopefully I get to work with him again.
Yeah, I mean that show is epic. So it's congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, it was great. It was great. It was awesome.
Yeah, so if we can just circle back to Quantum Leap, is there anything from the set or just about the experience that we haven't discussed, that we haven't touched upon, that you would like to express to the leapers that are out there listening?
Just really that Raymond is genuinely a really good guy, man. As far as, being a newer actor, to LA like myself, or people who have been out here a long time, he was sharing with me like some of his road, because, he's kind of like really like at the peak of like his success right now. Like it really just took off for him in the last like year or so. Like he just did Top Gun. I think he had something else, and then, he books this show, and this show is doing great. So now his face is all over the walls. But I mean, for him, he was saying just a couple years ago, he feels like he wasn't too far from where I'm at. And so just some of the knowledge and stuff that he gave me and taking that time out to speak to somebody else who's trying to get to the level that he's at, it was, that type of stuff means everything, so it's great.
That's terrific. That's
Yeah.
terrific. Maybe in a couple of years' time, we'll see your face on the side of a giant building in LA.
I hope so. Yeah. Hopefully I get to have my clothes on, but
Well, Nate, thank you so much for the time you've spent with us here on the Quantum Leap podcast. We really appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you guys so much for having me, man. It's great.
Hey, this is Matt. Welcome back to the Quantum Leap podcast. Today on the show, we're really excited to have none other than Deandra Lyle, also known as ADA Vicky Davis, from the latest episode of the series. Deandra, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for your time today. I know we're going to get all into the stuff about Quantum Leap. We really can't wait to talk about the character and your experiences on set. But could you start off by just giving me a bit of background about yourself, how you got into the business, what's kind of taken you through your career so far?
Yeah, so I kind of had a non-traditional route into the business. I didn't plan on being an actor. I didn't choose it; it chose me. So in my former life, I was a recreational therapist at a psych hospital. So I got my degree in therapeutic recreation, my minor in social work, and I worked with at-risk youth, children in the system, and then at the hospital, children age 4 through adult with a lot of, mental health, challenges and everything like that. So that's what I did in my former life. And the acting bug really didn't, I guess, start biting me until, I took a class my last semester of college just for fun. And it was good. My teacher said I did well and I should consider it, but I was like, I'm not thinking about acting. So fast forward several years, it continued to sit in the back of my spirit. And when I got laid off in 2008 from my therapist job, I decided to try acting at age 30. So that was kind of again, I was in Chicago at the time, and I'm from Iowa originally. So I'm a little Midwestern girl. And I was, a mom at that point. I had a daughter. I think she was, how old was she then? I don't know, 2009, she might have been like 6 or 7. And I said, hey, when one door closes, another one opens. So let's try this acting thing. And here I am years later. And I've been really blessed to be able to do work on almost all the major networks. And I've done lots of different roles. I've done comedy, I've done drama. I've had all this fun. And I'm just, riding the wave. I'm enjoying it. So that's kind of that's the abbreviated version of how I got my start.
I love those inspirational stories about being able to pivot in a moment of crisis. That's great. Did you sort of have to train up for it, or did you just start auditioning and learning as you go? Because I imagine that at that point it must have been quite a moment of, okay, if I'm going to do this, I've got to do this right now.
Yeah,
quickly.
I'm not classically trained, so I don't have a BFA and MFA. I didn't. I've not experienced in the theater or the different methods and things like that. But, I think everybody's gift is different. And I still work at developing my craft and my instrument. So I have taken various classes over the years, audition techniques, scene studies. I've done improv. I actually trained at Second City, the Chicago Improv. So that's the original Second City. So I did do a year-long program there early in my career. And yeah, so I still work on, honing my craft and when I need to go to class, I will go to class or I'll coach with somebody. But, too, I think being in my former career, dealing with a lot of like psychological things, that really helps me with character study. I can understand a lot of the dynamics of what's going on beneath the layers. So that helps me, and just understanding, human nature. So, I always tell people, watch how you do things. If you're getting up, how do you brush your hair? How do you put your clothes on? How do you feel when you're hot, when you're cold? Or watch other people, across the room and pay attention to their body language. You can really see how they feel about each other or what kind of mood they're in. And those are all the types of things that we bring to acting, right? So it's just kind of like you can learn constantly by just paying attention and being, observant. So, so not classically trained. But I still work at it. And, again, like you said, it's like, if I'm going to do this, I got to at least be prepared. I can't just jump in. I respect the craft, with anything that I do, I respect it. So you have to do your due diligence. Very important.
So you started looking at different roles. What would you say out of everything you've done? Because I can see from your resume you've done a whole bunch. What was your breakout role where you were like, okay, I've arrived now?
You know what's funny is I don't know if you ever feel like you've arrived, because it's always, you just. I always tell people I haven't made it. I'm making it. It's continual. You know what I'm saying? So every step is something new. It's a new challenge. The different roles, different size roles, So, in the beginning, it's like, that first co-star was a major achievement for me. That was, okay, I'm starting to make it, right? I'm making it. And then going from a co-star to a guest star, and then going from a guest star to a recurring guest star. And then, I've been very fortunate that I'm able to say I've reached series reg status, So each level has its own, it's its own success. It's its own victory. It's its own breakout. It's you're arriving in different ways constantly. So I think, I've been fortunate to continue to grow and continue to climb up that ladder, and I hope it continues, but there's no guarantee. So I'm just enjoying it. But yeah, I to answer your question, not any particular role. It's just continuing to work and continuing to do good work.
Yeah, fair enough. So it's a healthy attitude, and it's an attitude that's led you to this role on Quantum Leap. So what can you tell me about how you found out about the role, the auditioning process, and your first thoughts when you saw the script?
Well, this was an interesting situation because the director, Kristen Wendell, she has actually directed several episodes on the Disney show that I'm on. So I've known her for the last couple of years, and we also have a mutual friend outside of the business. But she actually contacted me and she said, hey, I'm going to request you to audition for this role. And she was getting ready to direct the episode. And I mean, I still had to audition, but she was like, hey, I'm going to throw your name in the hat. And I remember when I initially looked at the role and it said, I think like late 20s. And I was like, ooh, I don't know if I can play late 20s. But, it was one of those things where, it's the world of pretend. So they can change the specs and they can do things. And it takes place in 1985. So, I threw on an old Halloween wig that I had, to give me some 80s style hair. And figured out an outfit and felt as 80s as I could. And I just gave it a go. And I really enjoyed it. I'm more of a character actor. So I really like getting into the different looks, into the different feels and vibes of these characters. So to do this kind of period piece, period piece makes it sound like it's really ancient. The 80s, I mean, it's a while ago. Like 100 years ago, right? But, to do more of a period.
I don't know when the 80s became period, but yeah, it's horrible.
Look, and I even wore my little 80s shirt just so you know. I wore this for today because it's 80s style. So, but I was around in the 80s, and so, anyways, I was just really excited about doing that type of role set in that period. And the role itself was, it's an attorney, and I've played attorneys before. It's kind of in my wheelhouse, but it was just written beautifully. The storyline is a really strong one. I think it's great too for National Women's Month or International Women's Month too, and empowering women. But yeah, so I auditioned, and then a few days later, she said, "Hey, we get to work together again, and the studio and networks approved, and you did great." And so she didn't give me the job, but she helped get me over there to be considered for the job. So it was fun, and I got to work with Kristen again, and I got to meet an amazing cast and crew on Quantum Leap. So it was great.
Yeah, let's talk about the cast then, because you obviously you had to develop quite a lived-in relationship with Raymond's character. How much time did you get? Because I know network TV, very fast turnaround time. How much opportunity did you get from getting the script to that first day filming to actually work on how to build that?
Let's see. I think I sent the audition in on a Thursday. I got word Monday that I booked it, and we shot that following Thursday, like a few days later. So I think I probably got the script Monday or Tuesday, like a few days before we started shooting. So and then I didn't meet Ray until we got to set, and it's time to work. So it helps when you have castmates around you that are very welcoming. that are very, I mean, Ray is just so down to earth. He's an amazing, I know you spoke with him. He's just amazing, and everybody on there is. So I felt welcome from the jump, and it was very comfortable, and we could just get in there and play. I had a good understanding of my character, and it was written well. So for me, like when things are written well, it's very easy to retain. It's easy to just, ingest that so you can live it. So all those factors made it a really easy transition to be able to just jump in and go. But yeah, not a lot of prep time. You don't get and they're constantly shooting. And I mean, Ray, bless him. Like the amount of characters and roles and things he's playing, in these consecutive episodes is like mind blowing. But he does it so well and with ease. So yeah, it was not a lot of prep time, but we made it happen, and all those things helped make it much easier. So
one of the things I wanted to ask about, and this this might come from left field now, because I'm always really interested in the actor's process and that kind of that thought process. And now you said you're not classically trained, you're kind of self-taught. So one of the things that really sells Ray as being a woman, and it's not something that we've seen in this series at all yet, the observation I'm about to make, it's something we rarely saw when in the original series when Sam leapt into a woman. The relationship that you built with him, you weren't just looking at him like he was a romantic partner. You were looking at him like he was a female romantic partner, and there was a real tenderness in the way you interacted with each other. And I know I put some nice things about you on Instagram, and we conversed a little bit after that. And it was mostly because of that was the stuff that just made me really sit up and go, wow, I really believe that Ray has leapt into a woman, because all of this work that you were doing around him, I'm just wondering how conscious a decision that was. Were you making different choices than you would have done if you were romantically involved with a man? And how on earth did you manage to pass that in your head when you're standing opposite a man?
That's a really good question, and a really good thing to think about. Honestly, it really didn't matter who it was, if it was a man or a woman for me. And it didn't really register. Like, I knew it was Ray, but I think at the end of the day, you're connecting with the human spirit, and it's about that love and that connection. So it doesn't matter what form that's in. You know what I'm saying? If you love somebody, if you care about somebody, that there's no color, there's no gender, there's no, any of that. So for me, it was just kind of like, okay, this is my person that I care about. I love this person. I'm in a relationship with this person. And that to me is not going to be any different, regardless if it's a man or a woman, if that makes sense. But it's weird because I really didn't consider it. It was never really a thought. It was just that being that, my character was opposite. It wasn't Ray. It wasn't, Aleda.
Yeah.
The Mima. It was just my person. So I think I just stayed in that world and believe that.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That makes sense. That just surprises me, because a few of us have spoken about that, and we noticed the kind of the tenderness that the two of you have together just seemed to go beyond the traditional male-female relationship. So even if you weren't conscious of doing it, it comes out. And I think when you see the episode on Monday, hopefully you'll see that.
And I love hearing that. Like, I'm so glad that it translated like that. And I think that that's really important, really, for a lot of us to see, the state of the world right now. There's so many, the politics and all the pushback on who should be with who and how things are supposed to be and this and that. And it's like I said, at the end of the day, love is love. It blows my mind that people think there have to be conditions or certain, frameworks to, classify how it's supposed to be, and I think, I'm glad that it came across like that. And two, again, having Ray to be opposite against, he is very inviting, very warm, very comfortable. I felt like I've known him for a long time. So that adds to that connection and makes it a lot easier.
So maybe just opening up a bit more widely, what else can you tell me about the atmosphere on the set generally? I mean, this was obviously some of the scenes you were involved in were very high stakes, high drama, courtroom stuff. You said you got experience of that before. How did this compare to anything you've done in the past?
Well, I think one thing that's helped me when it comes to the legal atmosphere in that world when it comes to attorneys and stuff like that. One of the classes that I took several years ago, our teacher really worked on our wheelhouse. So characters and roles that we would maybe be inclined to go out for. So I do tend to go in for a really strong kind of, it's my persona, you know, I'm naturally have the strength about me. So, you know, so like attorneys or police officers, detectives, things like that, those come pretty naturally for me. So, you know, having worked on those types of things in class, I did an episode of Chicago Justice years ago, and I was an attorney, and we were in a courtroom, and you know, I had to be very like, with all due respect, Your Honor, and blah, blah, blah. You know, it's like really those types of things. Being in that space and having experienced it made it more comfortable now to go back into a courtroom, you know, on a set and go, okay, this is the feel of it. And honestly, too, for me, when I get into my character, when I'm in my, you know, my clothing, my wardrobe, when we're sitting at that desk, you know, on opposing counsel and the judge is there and we have our, you know, legal documents, I feel like I'm in that world, you know, so it lends itself to believing that and feeling that, you know, it's almost like a cheat. You're like, oh yeah, I'm totally, you know, an attorney right now and doing all attorney things. All respect to actual attorneys, because I know I have not done the schooling for it. It's way more than what I've done. But yeah, I think those types of things have helped prepare me for those moments and just being able to live it and to be it. You know, and again, the writing and everything like that lends itself to it too. So yeah.
How did you find that? Obviously, Quantum Leap, quite a unique show in the fact that it's effectively creating a movie each week with a whole different scenario. It's getting towards the end of its first season now. Did you sense any kind of challenges behind the scenes, or did you think perhaps that they'd got more into a rhythm now? Because this is what, episode 15, 16?
Listen, the whole production, cast and crew, is a well-oiled machine from what I experienced. Everybody felt in sync. Everyone was pleasant to be around. Everyone was welcome. There was a lot of just magic there. And, you know, a lot of that stems from the people that are at the top. So you have your producers, you have your showrunner, you have your, you know, creators, you have Ray as the lead, as number one. And their energy and their nature is just so like relaxing and calm and laid back and pleasant. And so that's really has a trickle down effect on the whole production. Because I've been around places before. I used to do crew work. I was a stand-in for a couple of years. And I've seen when things get really stressed. Okay. And, you know, it's a stressful environment always.
Yeah.
But you can either let it affect you, and then it just affects everybody's domino effect. And then it's just everybody's barking at everybody else, and there's just stress, and everybody's trying to hurry. And it's just like, Or you can go, okay, we're, you know, we got to get in and get out, and we got to do what we got to do. But we're all here because we love what we do. We're all here to have fun, because I think that's the most important thing. And we're going to make it happen. So when you have these positive attitudes at the top, you can't help but have a nice, you know, effect on everybody else. So for me, it was a great, great family to be a part of. I was kind of sad because my character can't come back. I'm like, I would like to come back on some more episodes, but I'm like, how am I going to do that? Because I'm back in 1985. So I can't really do that. You know, maybe I'm a leaper too. That's why I try to give them some storylines or something, maybe. But no, it's
absolutely, why not?
Right. I mean, you could do anything, right? But no, it was they do very well over there, and it's no wonder that they're as successful as they are, and that they're already going into season 2, and they got that early renewal. So I really hope it keeps going, because they deserve it.
Yeah, it's everything we've heard suggested it's going well. So it wasn't really a leading question as such. I was just wondering if you'd experienced that as well. And you mentioned about the family. Obviously, again, the kind of unique setup that Quantum Leap's got. It's mostly a whole new cast. I guess you got the chance to interact with Ray and Nanrissa, but anyone else you would have interacted with would have been brand new as well. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I did meet, sorry, Caitlin, who plays Addison. So
Caitlin,
you know, she was there for a couple. I mean, we were kind of like ships passing, but I think there was like maybe one scene she was in, but I saw her a couple days, and she was a sweetheart. She was amazing. But again, I can say nothing bad about anyone over there. All good. I hope they do this
Good.
because they can tip me well for saying those things. Just saying. Just kidding.
But that family atmosphere you talked about, that was reflected in the rest of the guest cast as well.
Yeah. Everybody, it just felt comfortable. You know, everybody was just, I remember sitting around in between takes, and we'd be in holding area, and everybody's just, you know, hey, how are you? Where are you from? Like, what's your journey? And it just, it feels like family. So even like, you know, Edward, who played Biker Stewart, like, we're now all connected. We're always interacting on Instagram. And I'm like, we sat down at lunch and we had this long talk. And I'm like,
oh, that's good.
That's my boy. I'm like, hey, we're family now, you know. And then Rissa, we had great talks. Ray, we had great talks. All of the guest cast because I think I was around most of the guest cast, not all of them, but I worked 6 days. So you know, at some point we were kind of in the same area, and everybody was great, and everybody was supportive of everybody else, and just happy to be there. So there was magic there.
Have you been keeping up with the show generally? Have you been watching the show as it's been on?
I haven't watched. I've been meaning to watch. I've seen pieces of it, and I've had quite a few friends of mine who have been on other shows prior. So it's fun. It's fun to see, all these people that I've known that have been on different episodes, and it's cool to be like part of the Quantum Leap family now. But I know it's a great show. I just have to sit down and like fully watch, because like I'm usually in the house with like music on or something. So it's funny because I work in television and film, and I don't watch a lot of television and film. I don't know what sense that makes, but I know it's a great show, and I do look forward to actually sitting down and watching all the episodes.
You're a couple of weeks left, and then you can binge it. Only 18 of them.
Yeah.
It's a day. So before we start wrapping up and talking about the future, is there anything else about your experience on Quantum Leap that perhaps you've not talked about, or you'll take forward with you?
I just had such a really good experience. I have been on a Disney show for the last few years. So this and another show that I just completed were my first jobs outside of my Disney show in a while. So it was just really nice to be able to come in as a guest and feel right at home. And everything felt authentic there, from the people to the looks to the environment to everything else. And everything, I think, even in having conversations, you know, if I had a question with the director or the writer or, you know, a producer about something that had to do with the character or the, you know, situation, everybody was open to have discussions and to be supportive, because everybody wants, you know, the product to be real and truthful and, you know, authentic. So I just, you know, it was great. I continue to sing the praises of that show. I want them to win for a long time and keep going. And I'm glad that I had the opportunity to be a part of it, because it was really, really special. And it's definitely going to be a wonderful memory for me in my career. So yeah, I loved it. And I also do love the diversity of it, you know, with Raymond being lead, with Nanrissa. I mean, you just have a great diverse cast, and it's not about race or color. They're people. And I think that every single one of them is relatable. Everyone's going to be able to relate to them just as people. And I think that that's important to see. So they're doing a beautiful job with that. I hope that continues.
Absolutely. Great words. Thank you. You say you don't watch TV much. Are you going to be watching this one on Monday nights?
I'm going to watch this one. I'm really excited.
Do you watch yourself, at least?
Well, you know what's funny is most of the times when something airs, because we're in California, so we're on the West Coast, so everything will air like ahead of time anywhere east of here. So I'm from Iowa, which is in the Midwest and the Central Time Zone, and then I have people, you know, on the East Coast, which is 3 hours ahead. So like a lot of family and friends will watch stuff, and then as soon as they're watching it before it's airing here, they'll be recording my scenes or like taking pictures of me, and then they'll put it on social media, you know. So there's sometimes I'm like, I don't really need to watch the show because I've seen my scenes already, you know. So no, but I am really looking forward to watching this one, just overall, because I want to see everybody's work, you know, and see how the story came together. and I don't have anything going on tomorrow night, so I'm actually going to watch it live. But yeah, and when I watch things, honestly, when I watch shows that I'm in, it never feels like I'm watching me. It feels like I'm watching that character. It's a very third person thing for me. So even when I would speak about the character, I'd be like, well, she, she, talking about like Vicki Davis. It's not me. It's that character. So in essence, when I watch it, I watch to, be a spectator and see, was that believable? Did I believe that character? Did I believe that moment? I'm not really critiquing my work, me as Deandra. It's just, was Vicki being lived? So, but yeah, I look forward to watching it. I can't wait. I'm going to watch it live.
Great. And I think you will find that the character was being lived. I think you'll enjoy it. Can we, maybe talk just a little bit about the future, where else Leapers can see you? Because there's bound to be new fans of you that come out of this episode. What's the best place to find you?
As for shows, I am on the Disney Channel show Secrets of Sulphur Springs. Our third season airs March 24th. It premieres March 24th, so in a couple weeks. And we were just nominated for an Emmy, actually, this year. We didn't win, but we were nominated,
wow,
which is amazing. And so, yeah, I've been on that all 3 seasons. We shoot in New Orleans. It's great. And that's an amazing show that adults love just as much as kids. So that comes up pretty soon. And then I actually am doing a recurring role on Bel Air season 2, which is on Peacock. And so, which is in the NBC family. So I shot Bel Air and Quantum at the same time. So I'll be doing 5 episodes on the new season of Bel Air. And I think my entry starts in a couple weeks on the 23rd, I think, on that show. So those are a couple more things you can catch me on TV. And outside of that, I'm just looking for the next job. I'm ready for hire. Should anybody be looking for an actress, I'm here. And just, and I'm on the socials. If you want to come hang out in my little world, that's where you can find me.
Fantastic. Well, I know your Instagram handle, so we'll put that in the show notes so people can find you. And hopefully they'll check out your other shows as well. But for now, I just wanted to say again, thank you so much for your time today. It's been a real pleasure talking to you and hearing more about your experiences.
Thank you for having me. This is wonderful. I had a great time.
And we're back.
They're all beautiful people.
Well, I've got a question. We know that they brought Jen in as the hologram because of her law expertise. What reasons do you think they might have to make Ian the hologram, or to make Magic the hologram, or even Janice as the hologram?
Magic, I would say some kind of military thing, right?
Well, don't we already have Addison for that?
That's true.
Yeah. I don't know that.
Ghosts.
I feel like he's not afraid of them.
Nope.
Yeah.
I feel I can see Ian, obviously, if there's like some tech thing. But Ben can do the tech stuff. So maybe it's a Ziggy thing.
Well, maybe it could be they're trying to repair something or to build something, and maybe Ian just might have some good knowledge about how to program it or how to work it. So that could be the case.
I feel like if Magic is in the chamber, something has gone wrong. Like no one else was available.
Well, I actually
everybody else is stuck in traffic. Everybody else is stuck in traffic, and Magic's the only one who could get to the chamber inside.
Yeah. Well, I could have seen Magic stepping into the imaging chamber in the episode where Ben had leapt into the boxer, and he was helping out his brother who had the PTSD from being in Vietnam. And Magic had been in Vietnam. He has first-hand experience, likely might have some PTSD of his own. So he would have been quite good to have in the imaging chamber giving some advice. Not that it didn't work out anyway, but I mean, Addison was out of commission for a little bit as well because she'd fainted from the exhaustion. So it would have been the perfect time for Magic to step in. That's just my opinion.
I want to reiterate my thought that I cannot wait. So if this is season 6, by season 8, if we don't see Magic in the imaging chamber not knowing how to use the hand link, it's just a missed opportunity. That's just would be comedy gold. You know, he doesn't understand Real Housewives of wherever, so he definitely wouldn't understand how to work the hand link. And like maybe there's the flu's going around and he's got to run the whole thing, and he's like trying to Google what happened to something, and then he's like, that'd be great. That'd be a great magic episode. Just saying, I love Ernie Hudson, so that'd be great.
Sorry, I just when you said that about the flu, I was like, it's not necessarily magic related, but like, what if like, all right, I'm gonna Venmo you now. What if there you go. What if Leaper X actually went
put
back
$1 in?
I did.
Yeah.
I sent it. I sent it to him.
Yep.
Because it doesn't have the same flavor. Martinez just doesn't have, like I said, just rolls off the tongue.
You're right. I think here you go, Leaper X. I said it. I'm like Leaper X. I don't know.
What if he like went back and had like the classic Jackie Kennedy thing? What if he went back and like caused COVID or something?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Ooh.
for because reasons.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because having COVID is better than what would have happened.
Yeah. You never know. You really never know.
You never know. Everybody was stuck at home, so like this group didn't get together and do that thing that they were going to do. I don't know.
Sorry, just on that note, before I forget, that reminds me of a funny conversation that we'd been having on a couple of the podcasts. I actually sent a message to Tommy Thompson, who was the writer of several
of
the original Quantum Leap episodes.
Love him.
And I sent him a message saying, do you realize that in one of your episodes of Quantum Leap, you had a time traveler leap into the past spreading a virus, and that time traveler was from 2020? And and I got a one-word response. Wow.
He's a cool dude. Like if you look up cool dude in the dictionary, there's a picture of Tommy Thompson. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I do like as well in the project, Ian's trying something new. They're trying to keep track of all the what they call anomalies that they can see happening in the time stream and comparing them from what they can attribute to Ben and what they can attribute to Martinez, so that they can determine, if Martinez is around where Ben is. I probably wouldn't call them anomalies. I would call them maybe ripples in the timeline or the time stream. But yeah, I just thought that was kind of interesting. So, I mean, the mystery box element of things is still there, but I do like that they are focusing a little bit more on the leaps. But we've only got, I think, 3 more episodes, so they're going to have to wrap it up soon.
Did anybody else think that Saul was Leaper X?
No.
No.
Okay.
I didn't.
I had a thought.
Wouldn't we see him?
I don't know how it works technically all the time.
Well, every time Martinez,
you're probably right.
Every time Martinez,
what if Saul's another leaper?
Picture, we've seen him.
What if Saul's?
I don't know.
Someone else.
It seems like this person was just a mentor to the person that Ben had leapt into. He certainly seemed very familiar with the Leapy, so I don't know why you would go to that.
He seemed familiar with the Leapy, but he also introduced himself. So in real life, I like the fact that maybe the hologram gets changed out here and there, like this Jen episode, because I really feel bad for Caitlin, because she's in almost every scene, because she's back at the project, she's with Ben, she's back at the project with Ben. When does this woman get a day off, right? So maybe she got a couple days off. I don't know. When Jen was the hologram, just I'm thinking that would just be nice for her. Don't want to work people to death like they did with Scott back in the day, and so I noticed that the thing that bumped me a little bit about this episode, the one little thing, was that when Ian, when they were able to remove the marker from the sheet, that it went completely away. And I was, from my knowledge of what I do with Photoshop for my work and different things, I was thinking it would leave a little bit of something there. But then I was thinking, okay, wait, $2,000 computer, $2 billion computer. That's probably why that can take it the rest of the way down.
But like at the very beginning, what like, you said that they were trying to run the anomalies. Does that include Martinez, or was that like a separate program to just try to track Martinez?
Well, I think
because he's like, Martinez was there. They're like, yeah, we know. We're working on it.
Well, I think what they're doing is they're keeping track of all the ripples in time that are happening in the region that Ben is in, but they're trying to be able to determine, all right, can we attribute these ripples to Ben or not? So any that they can't, they can probably assume then must have been Martinez.
Got it.
And if they do notice ripples that are going on that they can't explain, then they've probably got enough of an inkling to think that Martinez must be there somewhere.
All right, that makes sense.
Yep.
John, final thoughts on Ben Song for the defense.
I mean, it's same as my initial thoughts. I enjoyed it. Hayden has inspired me. I did do a haiku.
Oh, let's hear it.
So I didn't do the haiku that I assigned the hosts, where they had to kind of predict what they want for the next season of the show. Because as I said, I don't like spoilers. But I did a haiku for this episode. Ben for the defense, not bad, but they could have called it 12 Angry Bens.
I love it. I love it. Or Jen and the holograms.
Oh, that's good. But I didn't have enough syllables for that.
That wouldn't be enough syllables now. Your rating out of 5, John. Mr. John Irons, our special guest for this episode.
Can I do halves?
You can do anything you want.
I think I'm gonna give it. I'm gonna give it 4.5 80s female shoulder pads. It wasn't a perfect, as you said, Hayden, it wasn't a perfect episode, but I didn't love it, but I really liked everything about it. And it gave me that nice, warm Quantum Leap feeling. You know, it's like comfort food. I was like, yeah, this is what I come to Quantum Leap for. So I really appreciate that. You know, 4.75. Bumped it up.
4.75 what?
4.75 gavel bangs.
Oh, I'll take it. Hayden, final
Albie will
thoughts
take
on...
any bangs he can get.
Yes, exactly. Where are you located? Washington, D.C., right? I might be traveling. Anyway, Hayden, final thoughts on Ben Song for the defense.
Yeah, it's a pretty good episode. Like I said, it had a few issues. I don't like the fact that they did the bait and switch, and I
object.
There's a lot of
we already covered that, Judge.
Aren't realistic about the
this is
I
final
asked that to be
arguments.
stricken from the record.
You cannot object to a final argument, to a closing argument.
Yes, Judge.
Yeah, and that's something interesting actually about the legal system. Often it's just a case of who does the better job of arguing the final statement at the end, rather than how much evidence there is. So that might be another, not so much a failing of the episode, but just another failing of the legal system in general. I mean, I'm just pointing out that it's not perfect. So it does a lot of things well, but a lot of things can be improved too. But yeah, the episode was pretty good. I'm with John on this one. Not perfect, but at least Quantum Leap does seem to be hitting its stride now, getting the balance about right. So I'm going to give it 4.5 Chekhov's bikes out of 5.
Okay. I would agree with you about the legal system, Hayden. Who argues the best usually wins. I can tell you from personal experience, the most money I've ever spent on anything in my life is attorney's fees. So
stop breaking the law.
I was innocent. I was innocent. So, my name was cleared, but it cost me more money than I could conceive of. But, okay, my final thoughts on this episode. I was worried going into it because I had read the episode description and I knew Jen was going to be in it and featured as a hologram. So I got excited for the episode. So I was worried I would be disappointed. My excitement was not unwarranted, and my excitement level kept up all through the episode. I got emotional. I loved it. Again, I felt like it was season 6 of Quantum Leap. It really felt like Quantum Leap. It wasn't like a standout, the best episode, like when we look back like years, what was your favorite episode? This one probably won't be the top one, but I can say for without a doubt, this is so Quantum Leap. And I just love that. And I've been asking for more Jen since the beginning. So I just on that and the performances and the writing, the directing, I'm going to give this 8 drowned bunnies out of 5.
Sorry, Marge, this gets my lowest rating ever. 8 thumbs up.
Basically. I love the show. What can I say? So if he saves the bunnies, more bunnies will go in. But if he stops saving the bunnies, he can stop the bunnies from going in, right?
Potentially. No guarantees.
Possibly. He just needs a friend. He needs a friend or a telephone. We could just call up to the farmer and say,
or call the animal cruelty people. I don't know. Maybe this is set in the olden times where that didn't happen. Speaking of olden times, what about the leap into the next episode? Hayden, can you tell us about next week's episode of Quantum Leap?
Well, I think that I read that he might be undergoing shock treatment.
Do you think this episode will parallel at all previous episodes of Quantum Leap?
Well, I've been thinking that most episodes have been paralleling something from the original Quantum Leap. Like, for example, this one felt a lot like So Help Me God and Trilogy Part 3, not just from the courtroom drama, but for a lot of other things going on as well. And I have felt that there have been several episodes so far that seem to have some kind of parallel to the previous ones. But I'm also thinking that somewhere along the way, maybe in the penultimate episode or even the final episode of the season, we might end up seeing that these tasks that Ben has done, he's needed to do them all so that particular people can do things and get a particular outcome happening for wherever he is going to go. I think that everything has been a piece of the puzzle. So I'll be very keen to see how it all fits together.
And that's when I picked up the shotgun. So it looks like Ben's further back in time. So that's whole pulling back the slingshot to go to the future, I think, is coming to fruition. Because it looked about, what, the 40s maybe?
Yeah, it felt 40s to me.
Mm-hmm. And that lightning.
I don't know. I wasn't there. I'll trust your judgment, Albie.
Not bad with the cement and the paint. I think the lightning was giving me Shock Theater vibes and Mental Institute. So I'm really intrigued to see what it was. See what it is. All I know is it's about a mental institution. That's the 2-word description I got a few months back. So
if we don't get a hologram wrapping, I'll be very disappointed.
The ABCs. Maybe we'll get the 1, 2, 3s this time.
As the hologram, but we've got to see a hologram wrapping.
Oh, who's probably the best at maths at Project Quantum Leap?
Currently at the project?
Ian, right?
I'd say Ian.
Ben or Ian, right?
Ian,
I would imagine.
Ian probably. Oh, yeah, Ben. Yeah, that's a good point, but maybe Ian. I'd like to see
Although
Ian
he was
Rabbit.
struggling with his maths in SOS.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he's not as good as we thought. Maybe Janice is the maths expert.
I think Janice can do anything, but I'm a fan.
Speaking of which, we haven't seen Janice for a while.
Yeah,
her absence is becoming very noticeable, right? So I'm looking forward to her in the end of the season. Yeah. And she's got to come back at the end of this season, so because I know she's got at least one more episode. So I'm looking forward to seeing that storyline come to a conclusion, maybe.
You know, the way the on the leap out, the way it ended, I felt like, and I don't know, because it could have just. It felt like the person who I guess was his wife. It almost seemed like she was acting, like delivering lines. I'm like, oh, was this? Could this be a scene that they're acting? And he's not really because you got in my head with the whole bait and switch thing.
No.
I was like, is he
Rooster
not really?
and
Is he not really?
See,
Yeah.
I actually think that maybe she's wanting him out of the way and is, pretending that he's more ill than he is.
Yeah, there's definitely
some deception going on.
Something going on with her. Yeah.
Conspiracy.
That was my first impression, that she's drugging him to make him seem crazy and be put in there. But I don't know anything but the 10 seconds that we saw. So we'll have to see next time on Quantum Leap. Ben interrupted, possibly? Yep. Ben, I thought it would be about a rat, but it's not. So, all right. Well, I'd like to thank everyone we interviewed on this episode. Thank you so much. And I'd really like to thank John for being a 3-time guest host with us. That's amazing. So hopefully we make it 5.
I as always, I am honored anytime you invite me on. I feel like when I get to see the episode early, I feel like the queen of the ball.
Samesies. All right. Well, for the Quantum Leap podcast, Quantum Leap After Show, I'm Albie.
I'm John.
And I'm Hayden Interrupted.
And we'll see you next time.